Town Square Media Station.
Here we go on a Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and, of course, live video on YouTube and Twitter. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show. You out there. What's up, everybody? Hopefully you're enjoying your day. It's a nice day out down the Jersey Shore on a September afternoon. Feels good. Eagles still want to know they didn't take that win from anybody, right? Doesn't matter that we didn't beat a team that was all that good to the detractors out there. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't with that whole story, right? You could be the guy that says, hey, I'm impressed they beat up on the Falcons and be the fanboy, or you could be the guy who says, well, they didn't beat anybody, and that you would bitch and moan if they lost to the Falcons. So there is no in-between guy in there. You can't be the objective guy and say, look, they beat up on a team that's not very good. But of all the games this weekend, there's some other bad teams in this league. Nobody lost as bad as the Falcons did this weekend. So are they the worst team in the league? Probably not. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons entered this season as the worst team in football. But the Philadelphia Eagles sure made them look like the worst team in football. That's a credit to the Eagles. That's not, hey, Atlanta stinks. That's a credit to the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's okay to say, look, they exceeded my expectations. That doesn't make you overzealous. That doesn't make you, over the top or irrational. The Eagles could exceed your expectations and still need to show more this week against a much better opponent in the San Francisco 49ers. They both can be true. I feel like we need to go through a cleansing of the way we have become fans. It's like you can't win a game and be impressed. You lose games and you're pissed. There can never be a middle ground of, hey, I didn't think they were going to beat the Falcons. I actually did, but many people out there are surprised. And still be impressed by the way they beat a bad team. Look, the Phillies are playing bad teams and they can't find a way to win. Can you imagine being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan today? I mean, I get it. They're the Jacksonville Jaguars. In this area, nobody really cares. But that being said, they lost to the Houston Texans. Let's bring it to a level that's more closely associated with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can you imagine being a Minnesota Vikings fan? You wait all season long for football. You think you have a decent team. Last year, you had playoff aspirations. Your team is disappointing. Now you're back again. Dalvin Cook. You draft Justin Jefferson. You think you had this great wide receiver. You're hoping that defense just had a bad year last year. You enter the season and you lose to the flipping Bengals. The Eagles could have gone and lost to the Falcons. How would you feel about this team if they lost 32-6 to the Atlanta Falcons? Probably not so good. So I say it's okay, everybody. It's okay to be pretty happy about what you saw on Sunday because there was a lot of good. And guess what? There wasn't a lot of bad. There just wasn't. Other outside of the penalties, early tackling issues, and really other than that, what in that game could you say, oh, man, that was a problem. This is going to be a problem. And I'm not suggesting that this team is flawless or perfect. Far from it. But for Sunday, against a bad football team in the Atlanta Falcons, they made a bad Atlanta football team look like the worst team in football. And that is commendable, right? That's a commendable thing to do, is to make someone look absolutely the worst because you dominated them that much. There was a lot of teams this week that are not very good football teams. At the end of the year, there's a bunch of teams this weekend that you're going to say, man, that team stinks. That you didn't say stunk that bad on Sunday. The New York Jets, they didn't look great, but they were in that game. They had a shot to win, believe it or not. The Tennessee Titans, they looked horrible. They're not that bad. The Indianapolis Colts, who knows? We think they're pretty good. The quarterback played terrible. You know, every team in the AFC West won. Every team in the NFC West won. The only team in the South that lost was Atlanta. This for week 1 is now in the books. We got who's in, who's out coming up a little bit later. It's going to be very difficult after the first week of football. I can tell you that much right now. Only one team in the East won, the AFC East and the NFC East. The Dolphins won and the Eagles won. That's it. Everybody else in the Eastern time zone all lost. Dallas, Washington, New York, New England, Buffalo, and the Jets. They all lost. You know, it's one of the things about being a sports fan. There's never a happy medium. We can never come to a happy medium agreement. There's always has to be absolutes. Either I'm absolutely right or you're absolutely wrong. That's the only way sports people's brains function. Right? You ever notice that? There's not like, yeah, you know what? You're half right and I'm half right. No, there's only absolutes. The Eagles either beat a bad team and you're not impressed, or they beat a team and you're overly impressed, and the other guy thinks that you are needing to pump the brakes. I don't have to pump the brakes. I saw a team go out there and kick the crap out of a team in the NFL. That doesn't happen often. The only team this weekend that got the crap kicked out of them other than Atlanta was Green Bay. That's it. Every other game was like a 1 or 2 score game. There wasn't too many lopsided games. Arizona beat up on Tennessee 38-13. Seattle beat Indianapolis by 2 scores. But everything else, I mean, other than the Green Bay game, everything was pretty close. Chicago lost 34-14. I mean, Detroit, they were in that game. Dallas lost by 2. Washington lost by 4. Cleveland lost by 5. Last night's game was wild. We'll get into that. Most of the games this weekend were pretty close, except for the one here. Brett is watching the show live on YouTube. What's up, Brett? He says if that O-line stays healthy, Eagles will win a lot of games. Well, Brett, you must be new to the show because that has been the message that I have been saying since about April. Look, this offensive line, you guys all know it. You saw it the other day. They were the dominant figure in that game. They absolutely won the game for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Brett's right. If that offensive line stays healthy, and it looks like they're going to get to week 2 healthy now, which is something that didn't happen last. They didn't even get to week 1 healthy last year. They lost Brandon Brooks and Dillard before the season even started. And then in game 1 last year, if you remember, Lane Johnson didn't play. So they didn't get 1 damn week worth of a healthy offensive line last year. You already see the difference in having a healthy offensive line. Lance Jones is watching the show on YouTube. He says, I'm concerned they won't stay healthy just based on track record, but it'd be beautiful if it did. Lance Jones, you have every reason to be somewhat concerned about the health of the offensive line. And quite frankly, I think you got to throw the defensive line in there. I think you have to say, look, Brandon Graham, older guy. Fletcher Cox, older guy. Javon Hargrave, he was hurt to start the season last year. Ryan Kerrigan's an older guy. You got a lot of older guys on that defensive front, and those are the 2 strengths of your team. The 2 strengths of your team are your offensive and defensive line, and they're both older guys. So Lance Jones, watching the show on YouTube, you have a reason legit to be concerned. Brett says, I've been watching you for a while, Mike. I love the show. Well, Brett, I appreciate you. I've just never seen you in the comments section. So send those comments along. Keep them coming. Jalen, I know you watch the show on YouTube daily. Appreciate it, brother. Jalen says, yes, I would be pumping my brakes if the Eagles barely beat the Falcons. They went on the road and won by 26. It's not like it was a close margin of victory. They seem like they can be a 10-win team. Here we go. Now there's the pump the brake comment at the end there. They seem like they could be a 10-win team. Jalen, I know you watch the show almost daily. You know I've been saying, what's the ceiling of this team? If the line is healthy, that's the caveat. You know, that asterisk. There's that asterisk that we put at the top of my comment. The Eagles could be a 10-win team, ceiling 10-win team, if the offensive line can stay healthy. If this offensive line plays 14 of 17 games, yeah, sure, they can win 10 games. I don't have any problem with that. I said that all season long. Right? Over on the text board, 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. Mike, I thought it was called Overreaction Monday. Now it's Overreaction every day. I don't think I overreacted on Monday or today. There's no overreaction, period. The Eagles won a game that most people picked them to lose. That's the caveat. It wasn't like people were like, they're going to go in down there and they're going to beat the crap out of the Falcons. Every single picker on ESPN.com picked the Eagles to lose. Every single one. Every one. So the fact that that not only did they win, they went down there and won by 26th. That's your story right there. The absolute destruction of the team. Now, again, I think Atlanta's probably about a 4-5 win team. They're just not a good football team. I think the coach is a good coach, but I don't think it's a good coach for what he does. Arthur Smith was a really good offensive coordinator in Tennessee with a great running back, very good play action quarterback. They had some weapons there. The Atlanta offense is not the Tennessee offense, and they have a bad offensive line. So I think Arthur Smith, who's a smart guy, I think he's a creative play caller, is going to have some problems with that team in Atlanta. It's just not a good roster. They have a terrible defense. They're bad on both lines. And that's where the Eagles won the game. If you listened on Friday and all last week, why was I pretty confident the Eagles would win the game? They were just flat out better on both lines. Flat out better on both lines. It wasn't even a contest. I mean, they weren't even close on the offensive line, Atlanta. And on the defensive line, Atlanta wasn't close. The matchups, Eagles offensive line versus their defensive front and vice versa, they weren't close. So while I didn't quite go out on a Baldy level and say they were going to steamroll them, I had 28-20. And my reasoning was, hey, look, Matt Ryan's an MVP. Calvin Ridley's a handful. Kyle Pitts, I figured the Eagles would have some problems trying to figure out what to do with him. But I thought the offensive line would be the difference in the game offensively, that you'd be able to put up a couple scores. This week against San Francisco, it's a little bit of a different story. Their offensive line's pretty good. Left tackle Trent Williams, one of the best in football. So you've got a much different challenge. Their defensive front is very good. Nick Bosa. Everybody loves what they saw from Jordan Mailata in week number 1. Well, guess what? Nick Bosa is a different challenge. I think we all know that. Fred Warner, the linebacker, that's a different challenge. Now, they already have an injury in their secondary, which hurts big time. They already have an injury at running back, which hurts big time there, too. Mike, can we make fun of the Giants today? Judge threw a challenge when he wasn't allowed. Offensive line and defense and quarterback looked terrible. Defense looked awful, and they spent all offseason getting into fights. Love to see it. Yeah, we'll talk about the Giants in the NFC East a little bit later today. The Giants look like a discombobulated mess. Their offensive line's hideous again. And again, the story with the offensive line around football is really the difference maker for teams. How many teams would go to the New York Giants and say, I take Saquon Barkley, I take Kenny Golladay and Sterling Shepard, I would take Darius Slayton as my third. I would love to have those three weapons. And as you saw in Philadelphia, you can have all the weapons you want. Now, Philadelphia's problem was they had no weapons coupled with a lousy offensive line. You can have all the weapons you want, but if you don't have the offensive line to get those weapons open or do anything with those weapons, you become the New York Giants. You become the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. There's not too many teams in football that have the triplets from the Cowboy days. I think every team in football would say, if I could start with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook, sign me up. The problem is they can't block a lick. Their offensive line is terrible. Brandon Gibson is watching the show on YouTube. Lincoln Financial, he said stadium. I'll fix it for him. Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday is going to be legendary. Brandon, it will be. And I got some news on that for you, actually. Two interesting stories related to the fans. One, go to our website, 973ESPN.com. The artist formerly known as Little Bow Wow, he's now just Bow Wow because he's older. He's no longer Little Bow Wow. He's actually just Bow Wow. He is a noted Falcons fan. He was at the game on Sunday. He went to video and voiced his displeasure with the Eagles fans who apparently took over Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday. And he's like, yeah, they're doing this Eagles chant or something. They got the arms going all over the place. Check out the video over at 973ESPN.com. He was obviously not happy. The best part about it, though, he's going after the guy who plays the music in Atlanta because apparently whoever plays the music in Atlanta was playing Meek Mill music. And he's like, everybody knows Meek Mill's from Philadelphia, man. You're playing Meek Mill music in Atlanta Stadium? What the hell's going on over there? So you're right, Brandon. Lincoln Financial Field should be pretty crazy on Sunday. But if you want to go to the game, following the Week 1 win against the Falcons, according to TickPick, the matchup ticket price has gone up 42% since the Eagles win. The Eagles now, to buy a ticket, the average price is $345 for the ticket. Based on the fact that they won the game, ticket prices have soared by 42%. The current get-in price, if you just want to get into the game and find yourself a seat up in the nosebleed section, is $189. It is currently the most for any Eagles game this season. That according to TickPick, which is a no-fee secondary ticket marketplace. It's kind of a competitor to StubHub, that kind of stuff. So you can go to TickPick and buy tickets for this game, and just the get-in price is $189. So Lincoln Financial Field, yeah, it's going to be crazy on Sunday. Keep in mind, nobody got into it. There was like a handful of games that had fans last year. It was pretty weak. 609-403-0973. The text board, 609-403-0973. Listen, it's Week 1. Let's not go overboard. But you know what? After last year, which was freaking miserable, that was one of the, I would have to say last year's Eagles season was the most painful Eagles season I have ever remembered. Even like the Dream Team season, which you had high expectations, they ended up going 8-8. I mean, they won their last 4 games. It was frustrating. Last year, when they won, it was painful. And having 4 wins late in the season and still being in the NFC East race was even more painful because the difference between winning the division and going to the playoffs and getting the 6th pick in the draft was like 1 game. Brutal. Last season was brutal. A breath of fresh air on Sunday watching them whip the Atlanta Falcons. I, for one, have no problem saying, hey, they dominated the game. It was a bad football team they beat, but guess what? I'll take that rather than the alternative. All day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play, and you can message us through your phone. Indeed helps you hire great people fast. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Visit Indeed.com/credit, Indeed.com/credit. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Follow me on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show. I have 2 pet peeves that happened to me today. So with that, I want you to share a pet peeve with me. And I want to see if your pet peeves match my pet peeves, because 2 of them happened to me today, and 2 of them keep happening to me. And I don't know how they can stop. I don't know how to fix these. I don't know how to fix these, but they happen all too often. One of them I don't understand for the life of me. Actually, both of them. One I understand more than the other, but there's one of my pet peeves that I just can't understand. Frank Close has his Phillies mailbag coming up in 20 minutes. Phil start a series with the Cubs tonight. Jeff Nadeau on how to bet the weekend games or early lines. Who's in, who's out. Tuesday with Thompson.
Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook in partnership with Resorts Casino Hotel. Visit resortsac.com for game day specials. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Week 1 may be over, but the season's just getting started at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off Week 2, DraftKings is giving all new customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $1 on any football game this week and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet at least $1 on any football game. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use my promo code 973 to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's my code 973. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only, new customers only, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hey South Jersey, this is Sean Steitler with East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows. For over 40 years, we have been providing the best solutions for residential roofing, siding, window, and door projects for South Jersey homeowners. Did you know East Coast is partnered with the largest lenders in the country? This means you can get your home improvements taken care of today with today's pricing and pay for it over time. Prices are always increasing, but yours don't have to. We have options for everyone, regardless of the size of your project. Call 609-625-1900 or go to eastcoastroofing.com today to schedule your free consultation. That's 609-625-1900 or eastcoastroofing.com. Remember, South Jersey, if you'll call, we'll show up.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
225 at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Download the free mobile app, Apple Store, Google Play. Message us through the app. I think if you know what my pet peeves are, you are probably suffering from these things as well. I see people's pet peeves coming in. Couple pet peeves. One, Jalen, people who turn or merge without a turn signal. I don't know if that's a pet peeve of mine. That's just somebody being probably, it's not a pet peeve. It doesn't happen enough for me to bother me. Yeah, it's like, oh, come on, dude, put your blinker on. Like the guy who doesn't put his blinker on, it's not a pet peeve of mine. It's just annoying. General pet peeve, when someone says I wasn't born yet, so I have no idea what you're talking about. That sounds like something that would bother Josh. Doesn't bother me all that much. Here's my pet peeve, okay? What's yours? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Text the show, 609-403-0973, or just leave a message if you're watching the show. What is your pet peeve, okay? Because I have two. And I have been talking about this for weeks now, and I keep forgetting to bring it up. Well, today it happened to me again, twice, both of these things. So this is number one, okay? Number one, pet peeve. I don't understand. All right, now, Josh, you might have to help me out on this one. You ever get into like the turn lane when there's like a light and the arrow for the left-hand turn lane goes on, and you might be the fifth car back?
Okay, so maybe like if you're in the turn lane coming off the parkway.
No. Let's say, okay, for instance, this one happens all the time. Okay. Any turn lane, but I'm just saying. All right, in Pleasantville, where the Black Horse Pike meets New Road.
Okay.
Right there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
There used to be like a Subway right there. There's a Rite Aid across the street. There's a cemetery on the other corner.
Yes.
Okay. You get in that left-hand turn lane.
The left hand, right.
There's two lanes that go straight, and then you get in the left-hand turn lane.
Right.
So you're the third, fourth, fifth car back.
Right.
When that light, that arrow goes, you know you only have a short amount of time. What the hell takes everybody so long to roll forward? I could be the fifth car in line, and I'm rolling. I'm ready to go, and the car in front of me never moves. Why do the four cars in front of me never move? Get your foot off the damn brake and go.
I have a similar problem in Marmora, where the light where Route 9 meets Tuckahoe-Petersburg Road, the CVS is right across, Dunkin' Donuts is on your right. That green light is only on for a short amount of time.
It's short,
but everybody knows it's only on for a short amount of time. And people are still sitting still.
Well, they're on their phones, but it's what it is. But
that's part of it.
This is the problem. Like, you can roll forward. Just move. Get out of the way. Go. Move. Go. I don't get it. Like, I'm fifth in line, and I could be in the front of that line. I'm like, I'm on my phone. I'm not saying that I'm not. But I'm looking up. I'm up. That light turns green. My foot's off that brake, and I am rolling. Nobody else moves. And it's every time. Every time. Never has. Does anybody else have this problem? When you are in that turn lane, you're in the turn lane, and the four cars in front of you, they never move. They never move. And then all of a sudden, all at once, all four of them go. And it's like, wait, you weren't ready to go? That's number one.
I was going to say, and also the worst part is, if you're too far back and they take too long to go,
yes,
you get stuck at the red.
Yeah. Oh, of course, you're the fifth car. You're not making it.
Yeah.
You're not making it. My next pet peeve, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This happened to me today. Is there any reason that you need to take 10 minutes or at all to back into a parking spot? Is there any real good reason that you need to back into a parking spot? Can anybody give me a good reason as to why? Because everybody's got to sit and wait for you now, right? You can't just pull in frontwards. Everybody has to wait for you to back yourself into the parking spot.
And it takes them 4 or 5 tries.
Oh, yeah, because now they're backing in. Oh, I'm not good enough. I got to go back out. Oh, I got to start again. I literally watched a guy back into a spot today for about, and I'm not exaggerating, it had to be, and it doesn't sound like a long time if I say 2.5 minutes, but 2.5 minutes of you just sitting in the parking lot watching this guy try to back his 8-wheeler truck. I mean, dude, just go frontwards. At what point is it acceptable that you need to back into a spot and delay everybody else's day?
It's because they're selfish. It's because they have no cognition of anybody but themselves. They're so self-absorbed, they don't care about anybody else around them. It's like the person who gets in line at the store and they take forever to check out because while they're paying, they're still deciding cash or card. And they haven't made up their mind yet. So now they're going through their whatever their element of carrying their stuff is, and they're counting their money and they're checking their cards. And it's like, dude, you got 3, 4 people behind you, but that person has no cognition, no awareness. It's their world, and everybody else can go just bug off.
So the person who backs into the parking spot, you're saying is selfish.
Yes.
What is the reason of backing into the spot?
Because it's easier to pull out.
Of course it is, but that you need to take the 5 minutes it takes you to get into the spot, you've now negated
into a spot easily. You shouldn't be backing into a spot.
Yeah, the backing into the spot I just can't get. I can't get the why you back into a spot. Look, if you're the only person in the lot, fine. At what point do you say, look, I'm backing in and I'm taking – there's 4 cars piled up waiting for me because I'm waiting for this guy to back into the spot. I can't get to any other spot because he's backing in.
Now, listen, I am well known among my group of friends.
Are you a backer into?
No, I'm a pull-thrower.
Well, the pull-through is fine.
That's what I do. I'm a pull-through guy.
The pull-through is way okay.
Okay,
like
I wasn't
if you're
sure.
at the grocery store.
Some people tell me, they're like, why do you need a pull-through spot? I'm like, why not?
Well, if you're at the grocery store, okay, and there's the 2 spots are open, you know, it's okay to pull all the way up. The question would be, why do you want to pull all the way up, though? Because then your trunk is now in the back. It's not in the front of the spot.
It doesn't bother me. I just like to get out faster. Exit strategy.
Frank says, I'm playing devil's advocate. Sometimes it's harder to pull in forward with a truck.
I mean, maybe then you shouldn't be in that parking lot.
Well, maybe you're not equipped to drive a truck then.
Some people just shouldn't be.
Are you talking about a pickup truck? Like, I'm watching a guy driving a pickup truck today. He's got, I don't know, Ford F-150. I don't want to piss the Chevy people off, or a Chevy Eldorado or something. I know that those NASCAR people, you either like one or the other. So I want to make sure that I hit all the bases. He had a Dodge, a Chevy, or a Ford. All right? That was the truck that he was driving. It was a pickup. And it was a big old pickup. But if you can't if you can't pull in forward, then guess what? Maybe you shouldn't be driving that kind of truck.
I had this argument with Billy Schweim a couple of weeks ago that I believe that there should be driving tests for certain people. If you have that much trouble driving, maybe you shouldn't be driving. How about that? If you have trouble driving, like how many times are you on the road? Like, for example, you know I drive the Parkway North every day, right? And you know they're doing this, you know, infinite amount of time it's taking for them to rebuild the part of the parkway because they're trying to make it 3 lanes both directions. The lines are there for you to stay in. But you, person on the road who is anxious, are squeezing the wheel so tight and you can't even stay in the lane. So then we all got to stomp on our brakes. We're trying to pass you because you're just swerving into our lane because you can't stay in the line.
All right, now my buddy texts, he says, bro, you've been in my truck. There's no pulling in forward to a Wawa spot with that thing. I'm going to call BS on this because the place I just was at, there was nobody in that parking lot. There was 4 spaces wide open that if he couldn't get into one of those spots, he shouldn't be driving that truck. I can understand if you're telling me there was 3 spots or 4 spots and 3 of them were taken. That wasn't the case here. This guy had carte blanche of any spot he wanted. The only other car in the lot was me.
And he went out of his way to back into us.
Oh, my God. It was like, dude, really? And I got out of the car and I said, "Is that necessary?" I gave him that. Is that necessary? Mike, as a UPS driver, they train us to back first, so we usually back into parking spots so we can pull right out once we get back in. You're talking about UPS, you're working. It's a little different. This guy's just going to get a sandwich.
I was going to say UPS driver is different than random dude with a pickup truck.
Yeah. The whole the backing into the spot, which, okay, you're telling me you have like some of these, this guy had like the double wheels on his back. He had that big of a truck.
Right. Monster, big
yeah, he had like the
truck.
double wheel, like extra long bed. So
the Lowe's guy, Home Depot guy.
I don't know where he was going. He was getting a sandwich. A lot of these people talking about the yield, stopping at a yield. Yeah, getting off the parkway, those people who are like kind of don't know how to get on and off. What about the people that can't back out of the spot and has to do like a 15-point K turn because they don't know how big their bumper is?
I've seen that. Yes, that's always an interesting experience. The person who they're so nervous about banging into somebody as they back out that they have no spatial awareness, so they pull out a little bit, then pull in and pull out and pull in, and they do this like bizarro K turn to get out of the parking lot.
Tim from Millville says the slow guy in the fast lane on the highway. That's a mic drop. Yeah, you know what's funny? I noticed too, like we were down in North Carolina and down there, like there is no like passing lane down there. They just take their good old time driving in the left-hand lane down there.
Not surprising.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole backing out thing, maybe because it just happened to me today. The left turn gets me more than the backing into the parking spot. The left turn lane thing, dude, when that light changes, get the hell moving. Move your ass. That's what I want to happen. I want you to move. When that light turns green, I want you to get the frick out of my way. That's what I want. I don't want to get stuck at that light twice. That's not a big ask, is it?
I don't think it's a big ask.
No, of course it's not.
Apparently, I don't know if my opinion matters.
Oh, my God. That one gets me more than, it's funny because I don't know if you recognize. On Thursday, I said I have a pet peeve, and then I never got to it because it happened to me twice on Thursday on the way to Chickies and Pete's.
Now, real quick question.
Twice.
Real quick.
Get out of the way.
Now, are your pet peeves only driving related? Or do you have other
I probably have other
pet
ones that
peeves?
just come up, and I just, like those two happen to me frequently.
Okay, gotcha.
Those two, like I had the backing into the spot happen to me today, and I happened to be sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for the guy to back in and out of the spot. You know how many back in, back out, back in, back out, back in, back out. Get the hell out of the way, dude. That's one of those things that's like recognize that you're obnoxious with your truck and just you have to then wait. You have to wait. You can't sit there and take everybody's turn. Because you're obnoxious, you now have to wait for other people to park.
They're selfish, Mike.
All right, when we come back, Frank Close has his Phillies mailbag. I will calm down. But my pet peeves happened to me twice in the same day. Sorry. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. All right, I'm back with more. All right, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Phillies are still playing. Yes, indeed, in case you forgot about them. Well, how many chances left do they have? Not too many. They're 4.5 back. They were off last night. They'll start a series with the Cubbies tonight. Frank Close has his Phillies mailbag ready to go as people still wanting to know a couple of things about this team, Frank, as down the stretch they come. First off, what's your pet peeve? You have one?
I have too many. I like a lot of your traffic ones you were talking about. I just hate waiting at that left turn light and then everybody is just kind of sitting there off in the middle of nowhere. So I'll go with that one for right now on the spot.
How about backing into a spot? Are you pro backing into a spot or against?
One of my best friends does it every single time. It drives me crazy.
Okay, so you don't like it.
I'm not a fan.
Good. All right, let's look at this Phillies team. 4.5 back, 2.5 for the wild card. Cubbies tonight. Down the stretch they come. Some good questions this week for the mailbag. Let's start off with a question from Michael. He wants to know, what's the plan with JT moving forward? Do they kind of do a 81-game catching plan for him? We've seen him play a lot of first base recently, obviously because Hoskins is hurt.
Yeah, so I think the question mentioned that Buster Posey was on an 81-game plan. That's actually more like a 100-game plan. Buster Posey is going to finish the year around 100 games. I don't think that the Phillies are at that point yet where it's that limited. I'm thinking more like 120. I think what needs to happen now, and it's very obvious after a few years of JT Realmuto sort of breaking down at the end, that he needs his days off. Kind of the idea when the Phillies gave him $23.1 million a year times 5 was that he was going to be durable and play more than other catchers, but it looks like his body is already not able to do that. So, I think it's very important for the longevity of him as the Phillies catcher that he gets his days off. He doesn't play any day games after night games. That's something he's done a lot when the Phillies felt like they needed a win. You'd have to use that. You have to use your judgment a little bit better on that. And, a lot of it could play into the fact that there might be a DH. And, Joe Girardi was very well known for, especially with his catchers, kind of mixing and matching and when the catcher would be a DH, when the catcher would be behind the plate, and also using that position for other players to sort of give them their rest too and to try to keep everybody healthy. And that's something he did, and it worked with Jorge Posada back in the day, I get with the Yankees. So I could see something like that happening if there is a designated hitter. I keep saying if, we don't know for sure yet. I think we kind of think it's coming, but that could be the key to keeping Realmuto a little fresher going forward. I think they have to do it, Mike.
So torn on that. Like, I hate the DH, but I know it will help this particular team. But it's like, I don't care. I don't want to help the particular team if it goes again. I just hate the DH. And the Phillies' problem is they have 4 DHs on this team. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I saw the piece. I think it was Matt Gill that did about how bad the left side of their infield has been this particular season. And a question from Rich wants to know about that. Who do you see on the left side of the infield next year? Because this thing has been they have one of the least productive left side of the infields in all of baseball.
Yeah, in fact, he probably that's exactly what I thought, is that he read Matt Gilb's piece on The Athletic that prompted him to ask this question. But it's not going to be easy for this Phillies team to sort of rebuild that left side. In terms of prospects, Bryson Stott is their top prospect. However, Bryson Stott has not played at AAA yet. I don't think that means he's going to be a starter in the major leagues come next year. I think they're clearly trying to see some more from him. Didi Gregorius, you don't know how healthy he's going to be. I think that I've said to you before that the days that Didi is feeling good, he plays much, much better than the days where he's clearly bothered by that pseudo gout in his elbow. Now, is that something that's going to clean up, or is that something that's going to be lingering along the way? I think that's the big question here, but clearly Didi hasn't been good enough at the position, either at the bat or in the field. And then third base has just become a wasteland because Alec Boehm could not catch the ball at third base. And one of the real challenges the Phillies have right now, especially, is that since he went to AAA, he's barely played. And that's because he has a little bit of a hand injury, and Alec Boehm has not been able to show that he can get his glove going before this offseason. And so that's going to be a real problem for the Phillies. I think the Phillies need to bring somebody in from the outside of some sort. This is that big shortstop class out there that people have been talking about for many years with the Trevor Stories and Carlos Correas and Javi Baez's of the world all hitting free agency, although Baez isn't that great with his glove. And also Chris Bryant's a name that's always coming up with the Phillies, and certainly he would love to play with his friend Bryce Harper, of course, if the deal is right. So, maybe they add one and then they try to use what they have to come up with the rest. I think it's important the Phillies bring Freddie Galvis back. He's been a little bit bothered still by that injury, and he's a little bit slower. I'm sure you've noticed if you've watched Freddie Galvis play, but, he could be somebody that's a good backup to have around in case things don't go well. But I think this is a situation where not just the left side of the infield, but the entire middle to left side of this whole defense, the Phillies are going to have to basically rip it up and almost start over. They need a center fielder. They need a left fielder. They need a shortstop. They need a third baseman. There's going to be a lot of movement, I think, this offseason. I think Dave Dombrowski is going to take a step back and really see what's out there, what he can get and how he can get it, and just kind of go from there. I just think that this is going to be a very different offensive team heading into next year.
Yeah, that's interesting because Bohm, obviously, that would be terrible to say that he's already, do you think that they're ready to already close the book on him?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think they ever thought Alec Bohm was a long-term answer at third base to begin with. I think he came up in 2020. That was the best place to put him. And you kind of knew that Andrew McCutchen would be a free agent and left field might be available. But you try to get through a couple of years with him. Now, the first year, the small sample size, remember, he came up partially into that 60-game season. He looked okay for that small sample size. This year, clearly, he was not okay. In the same way that the Phillies, with the small sample size of Rhys Hoskins in left, thought it was a good idea to let him play left field. So they have to do something about that. I still personally think Alec Bohm could find himself in left field long term, but part of the problem is you haven't been able to see him down the stretch to really get a sense of what he is. Now, I think he remains a big prospect. Other teams would want him in trade if there's a trade to be made. But again, you're not looking to unload him. You're looking to take the value that he has and trade it for value that meets your needs a little bit better. So I think anything's on the table, Mike.
Mike, Frank, Mike, I'm Mike, you're Frank. They need to then decide because what they did with Cody Ashley a couple of years ago, he went to spring training, played third base, and then they decide, you know what, we want you to play left field, and they send him to the minors to go play left field. You got to make that decision. Almost now that decision has to be decided on. What do you want to do with him down the road?
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to figure out. You're getting new baseball operations staff in here. In fact, I think that the reorganization of the front office is going to be like the reorganization of this Phillies defense. I think he's going to just, after evaluating this year, make some big changes. And I think anything's on the table right now, Mike.
All right, let's go to another big question that a lot of people keep asking. Chris wants to know, is Aaron Nola pitching his way into off-season trade talks?
So here's the thing about Aaron Nola. Clearly, he hasn't been what you've wanted, right? Remember, we've always asked the question, well, is he an ace? Is he not an ace? Well, I think that question is not being asked anymore because he hasn't performed anywhere close to an ace caliber pitcher. In fact, all these games that we're seeing, we're going into him saying, well, this is a big game for him to show that what he can do. This is a big game for him. This is the big game for him. And guess what? He's come up small rather regularly lately. In fact, just one game out of his last 8 starts. It was that game in San Diego where he gave up that home run to tie the game at the last possible minute with 8 2/3. That was his only time he pitched more than 5 1/3 innings over that span. And that the Phillies need better from that. Now, that said, he has value. Other teams would value him greatly. So if the Phillies are going to trade him, it can't be because they're just mad about this year and they have to trade him, right? I think if they're going to trade him, it's because, one, they get value in return, that somebody's prospects or whatever. Again, at the end of the offseason, Dave Dombrowski has to have the whole picture solved, right? So if he can get good value for Aaron Nola and at the same time replace Nola in the rotation, that's the key one, with an impact pitcher, well, if he can do that, good for him. Then maybe you do consider moving him because you brought in pieces and yet you've got another. But one of the other problems here is Zach Eflin might not be ready to start next season. If I'm the Phillies, I would try to add that Tyler Anderson that they almost traded for. If you remember that deal with the Pirates that fell apart, maybe get somebody like him that can sort of back up Eflin / be a 6 starter. He might be low cost, low years. So I think if you're going to trade Nola, you need to get 2 starters into this rotation. Ideally, one of them being more impact than not. And 2, of course, you're not dumping him you need value in return.
All right, Frank, they start a series with the Cubs tonight, obviously 4.5 back. If they want to do something, JT said it the other night, we can't split series. We got to win them. We got to start winning series. Starts with the Cubs. They got the Orioles, the Pirates. They got teams that are very winnable, but that didn't seem to matter against the Colorado Rockies. Plus, they're going to go with a bullpen game again. You wrote about no Vince Velasquez. They designated him for assignment, so he is essentially out of their plan. So we'll see. Can they get themselves off the mat? 4.5 back. It seems to be a pretty daunting task as they start this series with the Cubs. So Frank's got the mailbag up at 97.3 ESPN.com. He's got more Phillies notes over there. Check that out on the final couple of weeks of the schedule. Read more at 97.3 ESPN.com. All right, Frank, we'll talk to you, pal.
Good to talk to you, Mike.
Don't back into any spots now for me, all right? I don't want you to be a hypocrite. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You can download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play. Do it now, and you can message the show right through the app. We got some more pet peeves coming in over on the text board, 609-403 0973. Mike, as always, love the show. Josh, pet peeve at certain places, paying cash versus bank card. Can't wait for the response. Now, I carry hardly any cash ever, so I don't know which one you don't like. Do you like the bank card or the cash? Because people who pay with the bank card sometimes, depending on the place, if their card reader is a slow one, you know, everyone's kind of staring at you like you're waiting for it to say remove card, remove card. Come on, come on, come on, come on. But I hardly ever have cash on me. Like never, never, never. And I actually had to go over the Margate Bridge today, and I happened to have a $5 bill on me, which was so randomly lucky. Normally, I wouldn't even have that $5 bill on me. I found it in the shorts in the dryer last night. It was the only reason I had the $5 on me. Otherwise, I don't know how I was getting over that bridge. So I normally pay bank card. Mike, using the self-checkout at the grocery store because people want to check out their 50 to 60 items themselves. Go to a cashier and put your stuff on the conveyor belt. That's from Ryan.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studio.
All right, 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Good. Now, I haven't even got into the Monday night game from last night or the ManningCast, which I did watch. I was going back and forth. My girlfriend was watching the game with me, and she said she had sensory overload watching the ManningCast last night. It was a good concept. They need to fix it a little bit, though. I do agree with her, and I can multitask better than anyone out there. I'll put my multitasking skills up against anybody. And they had too much Nat sound on the game. Russell Wilson's headset was like he was playing like Turtle Bay or something on PlayStation or something like that. It was terrible. They got to do a better job, but the concept was good. So I'll get that comments a little bit later on as well. Jeff Nadeau is here. We're going to take a look at the lines for week number 2. We'll look back at some of the surprises for week number 1. Now, I would imagine a guy like you, Jeff Nadeau, you have a lot of pet peeves, I would imagine.
Somewhat. I mean, I try to get better over the years at that kind of stuff. Look, Mike, there are 2 things that I have problems with: overreacting, and I'm too sensitive. I'm a Cancer. That's just how I am. It is what it is. But yeah, I have pet peeves. Things annoy me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, today I had 2 of my pet peeves.
Stupidity is the biggest.
What is it?
Stupidity.
Well, I had 2 of my pet peeves. That happens. That's just like throughout everyday life.
Right.
I had 2 of my pet peeves. Both happened to me today, and it's happened to me too many times that I just blew up today. I couldn't take it anymore. People at the left-hand turn lane, when that arrow goes, not moving. I'm rolling. I'm going. But the guy in front of me is never moving. I don't understand why he just doesn't get out of the way. Just roll. Everybody can roll. Everybody can move.
Yeah,
Body's in motion.
So we have this problem where I live now. I live in a town called Lancaster, which a lot of people know for being Amish. There's actually a city, though, that I live in. It's a big city. And we have a 2-lane streets, right, where, you're going down the same way. And there are people, on busy days that will just sit with their 4-ways on in one of the lanes. And it's a constant problem.
Get out of the way. Get out
of the way. And these mostly are people that there's a parking spot directly next to them. Pull in and park. It is so rude.
My second one has to do with parking. People who take 5 minutes to back into a spot.
Yeah. Listen, I lived in South Philly, so I know how to park for sure. But, people – the problem is a lot of these DMVs, when they teach you how to do things, they really don't spend that much time in actually teaching you how to park. People need to learn how to park, and I would probably guess 80% of people don't.
No, well, now I got people messaging me. It says, Mike must hate all the people who work for the Atlantic City Electric Company because it's company policy to back into the parking space. No, I don't hate the people. I just said when I'm the guy who's stuck watching you, I don't hate the gentleman for doing it. I'm just saying, now you're working. That's different. I'm talking about a guy who's on his leisure time getting a sandwich at the store. That guy doesn't need to back into a spot. Get out, park on the street, and walk and get your sandwich. That's all.
I give credence to, business people. If you stop in the middle of the street, I get it. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. Also, people that, and again, this is a big one. You know it down there with all the highways and stuff. People that are in the passing lane that are not passing people. Stop sitting in the passing lane. Get out of the way.
Yeah, we have that one exit from I think it's to go from the Parkway to the Express, or the one that comes off and you're trying to get off the Expressway to get on the Parkway, whatever one it is. It's around 7. It's a treacherous spot there, and everybody slows, stops. They try. It's just a bad. Whoever was the engineer didn't do a good job. But that being said, I want to get first. All right, let's get into the football a little bit here. I want to get Jeff Nadeau's first reaction to the way the Eagles handled the Falcons. Now, some people are saying, they played the Falcons. They stink. Well, most people didn't think you were even going to beat the Falcons, let alone beat them by handily.
Yeah, listen, there are certain people in media, and I'm not going to bring up who, but they're constantly negative on this team, constantly. One of which, I'm not going to bring it up. I don't want to make it bad, but he works in Philadelphia media. He's completely negative. Can I say it, or should I say it?
I don't care.
John McMullen. He's incredibly
negative. Come on. Johnny Mac's the man.
He's super negative. He's never happy. He hates Jalen Hurts. But no, so listen, Mike, you want to know my legit opinion? I thought that this was the best game I've seen the Eagles play since 2018. It's that simple.
Well, look, they had
were
a
incredible.
plan. They had a plan,
Yes, they
and
did.
the coach accentuated the positives. They called plays with a purpose. They set things up. They did things, the quarterback didn't panic. He was cool, calm, collective. And I said all along, now people have accused me, Jeff, of being too high on this team. I said, as
Right.
long as that offensive line is healthy, I have no reason why this team shouldn't be competitive, and they could win 10 games with this line.
I couldn't agree more. I thought, the defense, we have to remember, didn't give up any points after like the 14-minute mark in the second half. I mean, they were elite. I know the run defense occasionally early wasn't great, but look, every part of this team was terrific. Hurts, I love watching the kid throw. I mean, I thought he passed every single test. It was as good a game as you could play as a quarterback in the NFL. I thought the receivers were complimentary. They did what they had to do. There weren't many mistakes. The only thing that bothered you was the penalties occasionally. But
and the penalties, Jeff, came from veteran offensive linemen, which you would think would get cleaned up.
Yeah, and it will, and that's why I'm not too worried about it. I don't also want to hear it was the Falcons. Let's remember, Mike, this is a Falcon team that has one, if not a top 3 receiver in the NFL. They have a tight end that looks like a receiver. I mean, he's a complete matchup problem. They have a quarterback with, say what you want about it now. I mean, he's thrown for 60,000 yards in his career.
Guy won an MVP.
Yeah, this is a Super Bowl team a couple of years ago, and I know they're not there now, but this is a NFL team, and you went down there. You didn't just beat them; you destroyed them. Mike, what this game reminded me of? Remember in 2018 when the Eagles beat the Broncos? What was it, like 51?
Yeah,
whatever it was. That was this game. They were completely dominant in this game. Everything they did was perfect. I don't want to get too high, but I think they are completely live in this next game on Sunday down at the Linc. I'll be there. I'm excited about it. This is what coaching does for you. Okay, I'll tell you another thing. We give Howie a lot of crap, including me. I've said he should have been fired multiple times. Kenneth Gainwell, one of the best picks they've made in a long time, this team. I mean, that was a perfect compliment to Miles Sanders. Just everything about them I really like right now.
Well, it's funny you say that because, I'm not the biggest Howie hater in the world. I don't think he's great. I think he does a nice job. I think Peterson was more the problem of getting these young players ready to play. And this game was won by homegrown talent. I mean, it was Smith, it was Goddard, it was Rieger, it was Watkins, the offensive line, which is essentially Mailata's homegrown, Samala's homegrown, Kelsey's homegrown, Johnson's homegrown, Ertz. The whole offense is essentially guys they drafted. And was it bad draft choices? Sure, they missed on some, no question. But were they bad picks or were they not really developed correctly?
Look, they've made their share of mistakes. I mean, they've had major issues drafting receivers and corners. But, look, they've made some really good decisions.
Rieger had a better day than Jefferson on Sunday. How about that?
Right. He definitely did. And, another thing, Mike, we have to remember, I mean, they still haven't been able to use one of their free agents in Ryan Kerrigan. He hasn't played yet. Steven Nelson. I mean, some of these moves were just really good. They were shrewd. They made sense. I couldn't find much of a flaw in them.
No, this offseason was very reminiscent of the 2017 offseason, where they found under-the-radar free agent guys later on in the process that went under the radar. That being said, this week they opened up at 4. They're 3.5. So already people are saying, hey, I like the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, look, Mike, I don't think any of us will disagree. This is the hardest stretch they're going to have of the season, frankly. Yes. I mean, the Niners, Cowboys, Chiefs, Panthers, Bucks. Look, I think if you could somehow win, I mean, this week's important because I don't think you're going to beat the Bucks. I don't think it's impossible they don't beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are beatable. I'm one to say, I think the magic is a little bit gone with them. Just going to say it now. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Let's look at this week. You're right. Sharp money came in and took the Eagles at 4. 3.5, I think it's a good play. I would take the Eagles at 3.5. A lot of people are going to look at and say, well, the Niners are the Niners.
Yeah, well, they've got all sorts of issues. Mostert's out for the year. Verrett's already out for the year. So they got 2 key guys that are done for the season already. I mean, by the way, Philadelphia beat them in their place last year. Now, both teams were really different, but I don't know that San Francisco is some unbeatable team that has to travel across the country.
I said this before. I said going into the season, I didn't understand the love affair with San Francisco. I just don't. I don't think defensively they're very good. Look, last week, Detroit was lucky they didn't have another minute or two. San Francisco probably would have maybe lost that game, had to go into overtime. They were up big at one point, and we could talk about how they were up big, but you're right. Some of the things that they do well, i.e. running the football, they're not going to have as much success. I'd expect the Eagles straighten, tighten up a little bit on the ground. They're usually very good against the run, so yeah, I think they're very much a live dog in this game, and they're at home, as you said.
All right. Jacksonville was dreadful the other day. They opened up plus 2.5. That's up to 6.5 at some places already. So people are pouring money on Denver.
Yeah, I don't think – and I think the money is good on Denver. I think Denver's really solid. I think they're going to beat a lot of bad teams. I don't know if they're going to beat a lot of good teams. I think they're going to be in games and cover as dogs. Am I ready to lay 6.5, 7 with them? Not particularly. I'd expect – I think the over is probably a good play here, just to be honest with you. I think the Broncos will obviously move the ball against the Jags. The Jags can't stop anybody. I think their offense will score a lot this year, though, the Jags. They have playmakers. They have a quarterback that can move the ball. So I would look towards maybe an over here. Not really looking to run and lay money on the Broncos, especially with this move.
All right, you can see the lines up on the screen if you're watching the show. Another one that really kind of sticks out to me is this Jets game against the Patriots, because the Patriots lost, so all of a sudden, they're a 4-point open. They're a 4-point favorite. That's going up to 5.5. It's 6 all the way down here. Where is this? Over at Sugar House. So people saying, hey, I don't care that the Patriots lost. The Jets are that bad. I kind of like the Jets in that spot.
Yeah, I like the Jets in week 1. I thought 5.5 early in the week was a good bet. And look, Mike, that's a sheer thing on how important getting the best line is. If you bet the Jets at 5.5, you won. If you bet them at a terrible 3.5 or 4, you lost. So you've got to get the best price. My first thought on this game was under, 42.5, kind of a highlight number you want as a total. Under 42.5 looks good. I don't think the Patriots offense is good at all. I think you can make the case, Mike, they have the worst skill position players in the NFL. Just a dreadful group. The Jets, I think it's going to take some time to build. But you're right. If we could somehow get like 7 somehow there, I would take the Jets. Maybe
I'll tell you what I'm interested by. The Saints blew out the Packers, so I feel like everyone's going to jump on the Saints. The Panthers play pretty good defense. They opened as a 2-point dog. It's up to plus 4 now at home. I feel like the Saints are due for a letdown game.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise of the week. Mike, if I told you that, like, let's say you had over 48.5 in Saints Packers, and I told you the Saints scored 38, would you say – what would be the price you would lay that the over would come in there without knowing? Wouldn't you? I would probably lay minus 10,000 that the over came in. I felt like the over would go over 70 if they scored 38. The Packers scored 3 points, Mike. 3.
And people were joking. It was almost like Aaron Rodgers was trying to throw the game so they would get rid of him.
Yeah, it was weird. I think the Saints will be overvalued. I think the Arizona Cardinals are overvalued this week. I think the Tennessee Titans are undervalued. I will be on them against the Seahawks. That is a game that I think they can win. Seahawks are good on offense, but defense I think is a problem. The Titans will be better.
See, I'm always in on I always like to kind of get people's thoughts, especially guys like you who know what these lines are doing. The Colts opened at plus 1.5. It's up to 4 in some places. How it makes that big of a jump already this early in the year. It's crazy. People are all over that Rams team all of a sudden.
Well, you're going to see that first couple. You see it in college too. College basketball, you see huge moves. You'll see 10, 12-point moves on totals. Then after week 3 or 4, it'll kind of slow down. But yeah, there are people that are overvaluing some of these teams and undervaluing some of these teams.
All right, college games that stand out to you. Now, the last week, that was a bonkers week. So let's look at what's kind of, by the way, Thursday night, we got the Giants and Washington. That's the game here. It's 3 on that one. You got any early lean on that? You don't have to.
I'll tell you, I was surprised that Chargers found a way. That's a game they lose in years past. They found a way to win.
Yep.
It screamed under. I think this screams under. What's Fitzpatrick's status? I think he's a better option. Yeah, he's out, right. So, yeah, I don't like Daniel Jones.
They put him on the injured list already.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
catch that. I hate Daniel Jones, so until they move on from him, I don't really have much interest in either team, frankly.
All right, you got the Thursday, couple Friday college games. Any of those first three: Ohio, Louisiana, Lafayette, UCF, Louisville, Maryland, Illinois, do anything for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking at Louisville and saying, well, maybe they can hang around and just come in the back door because UCF can't stop it. And that screams to me like 41-38. I'd lean over in that game if I had to play anything. The one game I bet so far, Clip, in college football is right there, Army. I laid 33 with that group. It's up to 33.5. Some places 34, 34.5. Listen, Mike, if I can get 1 minute and talk about UConn. I watched this football game last week they had against Purdue. A lot of people, probably the only person on earth that actually did that. But I wanted to understand UConn's body language as a team. UConn is completely quit on this football team already. They're completely done. Mike, this is last week a coach tried to do one of those, fired up chants. Put your hands in and let's get hype. Not one put their hand in and raise their hand. This team is completely quit. Defensively, they are dreadful. Army is the last team you want to face when you are a group that has given up. And don't forget, Mike, don't just not lay points because it's Army. Army's very effective at scoring touchdowns. 59-10. That was the last time UConn faced a service academy, 2019. They didn't play in 2020. I would lay it, and I wouldn't have a problem laying it with the Army.
All right, one other game because the line jumped so much is that Notre Dame-Purdue game. You mentioned Purdue. It was opened at 11.5. It's 7 now. So that thing is taking almost a touchdown drop.
Yeah, I'm likely going to be on Purdue here. I was bullish on them to start the season. I'm bullish on them here. I had them week 1. They got the job done. I like Purdue. This is a football team, well coached, have a really burgeoning defense. Their quarterback plays good. They have 2 receivers, Mike. David Bell, who's a star. Not Rondell Moore, but he's really good. And then a tight end. Tell me this name isn't a tight end name. He looks like a tight end. Payne Durham. That just sounds like a tight end. Just good Irish bodied kid. I like Purdue. I'm high on this team. They're above the touchdown. Notre Dame can't stop anybody. I don't love Jack Cohen. I think Purdue could be worth a look here.
All right. We'll have that game for you right here on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff will be back on Thursday as we get a closer to the weekend line. And is there anything else you want to add on any of these games that stand out to you, college or pro?
Well, Mike, as you know, I could sit here and go over every single game, which I actually will do on my own Patreon show here at 5 o'clock. I go over every game. But, yeah, Mike, I'm looking forward to down the road talking to you. I like that we could do 2 times a week now to kind of update ourselves on some of this stuff. By the way, real quick, K-State. See, they're a 2-point dog. Skylar Thompson's out for the foreseeable future. I'm not sure why Nevada's only 2-point favorites there. That didn't make sense. One other one, real quick, 115, 116, down a little bit, I think. Or the other way. UMass Eastern Michigan, I think it is.
Yep.
I don't understand that line whatsoever. Eastern Michigan, Mike, I don't think should be a 17-point favorite to anyone in America. And look at the line movement. That opened 19.5. It's been bet down to 17.5, 17. I took 18. UMass isn't good, but I don't think Eastern Michigan is. Eastern Michigan shouldn't be an 18-point favorite to an FCS school, in my opinion. So I think UMass worth a little look. It wouldn't surprise me if they somehow won that game. That's a wild line to me.
And this Michigan State Miami opened at 16. It's down to 6.5.
Yeah. Well, look, some of those openers are like middle of the summer openers. And look, a lot have to do with the way Miami's played. Michigan State is better than people think. I said that in week 1. I took them against Northwestern. They blew them out. Michigan State is a solid football team, all about culture in Lansing out after Mark D'Antoni left. Mel Tucker's building something there. They have a good quarterback. By the way, Mike, one of their quarterbacks, old Temple quarterback, Anthony Russo, have a good run game. 2 of the best receivers in the country in Naylor and Reed, a good defense. Miami is on upset alert this week. Don't love the number, though. I wish I could get 7. If it goes to 7, I will grab Michigan State.
All right. There you go. Nice little addition of giving you the lines in your face there, huh?
Mike, I could sit here for the next hour and do this.
I know we could, and I would do it with you. Unfortunately,
Mike, you know what a sheer crime in America is? I'm going to tell you. The fact that I'm not on a publication right now doing this every day, that's the major crime in America.
That's true. Your knowledge should be shared daily with the folks that need your information. I do my best.
I'm too abrasive, Mike. I'm too abrasive.
You're very kind with me. Some people say that they see you, and then when I get on you, that you back off me sometimes.
Well, because I will admit when I'm wrong. I am sensitive. That's just how I am. I'm an East Coaster. That's a Cancer. That's how I am. I don't like when you talk down to me.
Yeah, like I think I've turned you into like you like Howie Roseman now.
Well, Mike, look, I changed a lot over the last 3-4 years. I mean, the weight loss was huge for me. I'm a lot more confident. I'm not as big a rude person.
You look good in your suit, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you've ever been to that location in where was it? Berlin, Lucian's Manor.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
What a beautiful place, man. What a beautiful place. I loved it. It was terrific. Shout out to my people, Rachel and Reno. Great people. Friend of mine forever. Great wedding. I might move to that area, Mike. I keep saying it. I might have to. I love the area.
You know where I was Saturday night?
Where?
Ocean Sportsbook.
Beautiful.
I had a nice 3-teamer.
Good.
West Virginia.
I'm going to be there soon. Yeah. Well, look, I love it. Wait, you do that every week?
I was there Saturday night on my own time.
Do you do any shows there?
Actually, this Friday I will be at. Where am I going Friday? Bally's FanDuel, I think.
Are you doing that every week?
Once a month, I'll be at Bally. Every Thursday, I'm at Tropicana.
Well, I'll be at Eagles Sunday. I'm going to be at the Shore hopefully soon. So we'll have to coordinate that, man. I'll try to get down there.
Yeah, this Friday. This Friday. I'm at Bally's FanDuel, I believe it is.
Love it.
Yeah. Is it FanDuel? I don't want to say the wrong one.
I don't know offhand. I forget.
Yeah, it's FanDuel. No, Josh is telling me it's Bally's FanDuel. I'll be there one Friday every month, and then Thursdays I'm at Chickies and Pete's, which is right across from the sports book there. Saturday night I just went out to go see some live music, and we stopped in the sports book because I put a little 3-teamer down, and bang, I hit and paid for my night.
I love all those spots. I want to say this, Mike.
Let me tell you, they did such a good job. I know all these guys compete and yada yada. Every sports book in this town, they're great. They did such a good job on these sports books, these places.
No, they care. And that's the thing. Customer service is available down there, which is great. Mike Gill and Josh Hennig, two of the nicest, goodest, best people in the business. The best. Thank you.
All right, man. That's very nice of you to say. We'll close on that. Thank you, Jeff.
Cheers. See you guys.
Jeff Nadeau. 5:00 tonight, he'll give us picks Patreon. At Jeff Nadeau is where you can follow him on Twitter. Eagles are a 3.5-point underdog. If you didn't get that from our conversation, I hope you paid attention. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash is brought to you by my friends over at DraftKings. Now, I talked about being in the live sports books, which I was this weekend. But when push comes to shove, I use a DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off week 2, DraftKings is giving all new customers a can't-miss offer $1 on any football game this week and receive $200 in free bets instantly no matter what. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet at least $1 on any football game. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use my promo code 973 to receive $200 in free bets when you place $1 bet on any football game. That's my promo code 973 to get your $200 in free bets instantly. This week at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Jeff Nadeau. His appearance on the show is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. All right. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, download the free mobile app. You can message the show. The app is free in the Apple Store, Google Play. Hit the message us button. A lot of you have done that today, and I'm going to read off those comments. A lot of pet peeves coming in. What is your pet peeve? I gave you my 2. Now, I have other ones, but they're the 2 that, my pet peeves aren't enough for me to, remember them. It's just when they happen. The 2 I gave today, they happen way too much, and I had to get it off my chest. I'm back with more Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. So a couple of transactions. We told you Raheem Mostert is done for the year. So a big loss for the San Francisco 49ers. They signed former Eagle running back Kerryon Johnson. Now, of course, he never actually played a game with the Eagles, but he was with the Eagles all summer long. So Kerryon Johnson signs with San Francisco. We got that news for you today because obviously Mostert's a big part of their offense, and he is now out for the game on Sunday. Phillies lineup tonight. I'll throw that one at you real quick just to say I did it. Herrera, Segura, Harper, McCutchen, Miller, Didi, Torreyes, Knapp, and Gibson. So no JT Realmuto tonight. You have a day off yesterday, and Realmuto's not in the lineup today. I can't figure that one out. Hence the Phillies, 4.5 out. Torreyes seems to be like out of gas, too. Who's pitching for the Cubs tonight? You would think that, I would imagine a lefty. No, because Knapp's playing. So why wouldn't Galvis be in the lineup? I don't know. Torreyes seems like he's kind of out of gas. He hasn't been on base in 5 games in a row. At least he hasn't had a hit in 5 games in a row. Just seems like he's kind of out of gas. But okay, that's what the Phils decided to do. So the news on the 49ers I just gave you, Kerryon Johnson, he was waived by the Eagles. He had an injury reserve injury settlement at the end of August. He couldn't beat out Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, so he's going to be the backup now. Now, Mostert, he is out for the year. I would imagine that means Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, who was like a 3rd-round pick, and the kid Hasty would be the 3 backs they have there. Remember, Jeff Wilson is still out for them as well. So I think Mitchell would be the guy who was active as their top back. And look, Mostert, much like Mitchell, Mostert, he was with the Eagles at one point. He's just like a smaller, fast guy and couldn't stay healthy because he's small. He's small, quick, and they've had all sorts of injury problems, San Francisco has. So this week alone, they have already lost 2 guys to injured reserve, Raheem Mostert and Jason Verrett. So they lose 2 pretty key guys, and you have to wonder. They signed Drake Kirkpatrick, by the way, after Jason Verrett is lost to a season-ending ACL injury. So they had Drake Kirkpatrick coming in there. He's a 31-year-old. You guys have all used an Alabama guy. Started 11 games with the Cardinals last year. Not bad, actually. He was a guy I thought the Eagles could have taken a look at instead of, Steven Nelson. Or if they couldn't get Steven Nelson, that maybe they could have turned their attention to Kirkpatrick. But here's my point on the 49ers coming here now. What happened to them last year? They had more injuries than any team in NFL history, right? They were the most injured team in NFL history last year. And now, going into this week 2 matchup, you're already losing guys to injury. It's got to be in the psyche of this team of, my God, another season where we're losing key players, and they're losing 2 key guys. Verrett was really good a couple of years ago, but the guy just could not stay healthy. And they got him back this year. And you would think, man, we got Jason Verrett back. Here's a really good player. He goes down with the torn ACL, out for the season. Verrett, if you remember, the 2020 last year was the only season that he's been healthy since 2015 for them. He has not been able to stay healthy since he's been to San Francisco. And that's one of the reasons why here's a guy who was a 1st-round pick has been bouncing all over the league. Just can't stay healthy. It's unfortunate. Mostert, on the other hand, he was a big part of their offense, or he was thought to be a big part of their offense. And now he is out. They're going to have to go with a complete unknown with Elijah Mitchell, who, by the way, looked pretty good the other day. 19 carries, 104 yards. So I don't think losing Mostert is that big of a deal for them. And Verrett, for all intents and purposes, they've played without him before. So both of those guys are not the biggest of losses for them because they have been able to play without those 2 players a lot. But keep this in mind. Why did we think that San Francisco might be a better football team this year? Well, Brandon Ayuk was a player that a lot of people thought was a very talented wide receiver. Remember last year, he was one of the guys that people were ripping Howie Roseman. Oh, you could have had Ayuk instead of Jalen Reagor, right? Well, last year Ayuk had 60 catches, 748 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. Well, comes into this season, and he was benched. Didn't play at all in the game. He didn't get 1 target in the game last week, and your team scores 41 points. So one of the weapons that people were excited about entering this season really had nothing to do with your success the other day. So Ayuk, Mostert, all of a sudden, both those guys are out. The guy that I think the Eagles are going to have to really figure out what to do with is Deebo Samuel. Now, I like him a lot. Deebo Samuel, big guy for a wideout, 6 foot, 215 pounds, but man, he can run too. He was a second-round pick a couple of years ago out of South Carolina. He had 9 catches for 189 yards the other day. 12 targets. He got 46% of the targets from Jimmy Garoppolo the other day. So the Eagles are going to have to figure out where he is at all times. Coupled with the fact, now, they did a good job with Ridley last week, right? Coupled with the fact that they have that kid named Kittle, who's pretty darn good as well. So while Kyle Pitts was supposed to be this unicorn-type player, he's a rookie. George Kittle might be, I would imagine that most people would say he is a top 3 tight end in football. And he presents a huge matchup problem for Philadelphia. I think both of these guys, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, those 2 guys are big problems for Philadelphia. Big-time problems. And I would almost go out on a ledge to say Kittle's more of a problem for this particular matchup than Deebo Samuel is, and that's saying a lot because I thought Deebo Samuel was maybe one of the most impressive wide receivers in the first week of the season. Now, Kittle had 4 catches for 78 yards. For a tight end to get almost 20 yards a catch, that's pretty unbelievable. Now, they didn't spread the ball around all that much. You had 9 catches by Deebo Samuel, 4 for Kittle, and then 2 for Sherfield, who was basically the guy who got the snaps for Ayuk. After that, they didn't throw the ball all that much. And a team that scored 41 points. Elijah Mitchell was the big running back, 19 carries for 104 yards. After him, nothing. So offensively, this week is going to be very interesting to see what Jonathan Gannon dials up. Now, Jonathan Gannon did speak today. They had their press conferences for their coordinators. Here's a stat that might surprise you guys out there, okay? Now, what was one of the big things that Eagle fans would complain about Jim Schwartz? Right? You'd get here on Sunday, the Eagles defense did this, they did that, and the Eagles fans complain, oh, they need to blitz more, right? Wasn't that the big problem? They need to blitz more. Did you guys see this stat? The lowest blitzing 6 teams in the NFL on Sunday. Denver blitzed 16% of the time. San Francisco blitzed 11. New Orleans blitzed 10. Philadelphia blitzed 10. Houston blitzed 7. And Pittsburgh blitzed 1.8% of the time. What do they all have in common? They all won. The 6 teams that blitzed the least on Sunday, they all blitzed less than 20% of the snaps, and they all won. Philadelphia blitzed 10.3% of the time, and they won the game. They had the 3rd lowest percentage of blitzes in the entire league on Sunday. Pittsburgh, who went to Buffalo and beat the Bills, not like they went and beat Atlanta, not like they went and beat Jacksonville or Houston. They beat the Bills, and they blitzed 1.8% of the time. I thought that stat was really the standout stat to me because every weekend people would complain, Jim Schwartz doesn't blitz enough. He needs to blitz more. What happened last night in the game? If you were watching Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Russell Wilson late in that game in the fourth quarter during the ManningCast, they were calling it out every time. Here comes zero blitz. Here they come. What happened to Baltimore? They lost that game last night. They had no business losing that game last night. Both teams had no business winning the game, but Baltimore had no business losing the game. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Over on Twitter, at 973 ESPN. That's what I want to find out from you guys, okay? Did you watch the ManningCast last night? For those of you who watched Monday Night Football, okay? How did you watch the game? ManningCast or regular style? Now, I have the ratings for the game are out of who watched on ABC, who watched regular ESPN, and who watched the ManningCast on ESPN2. All right? Yeah, it was on ESPN2. So let me know, how did you watch the game last night, and what did you think? Because that game was wild last night. That game went from Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens were on the field hugging the Raiders players, congratulating them on winning the game, to having to come back out onto the field to finish the game, to the Raiders throwing an interception, to the Ravens then turning the ball back over to the Raiders. It was a crazy, crazy game last night. But I'd like to know from you guys out there, how did you watch the game last night? How many of you watched the ManningCast last night? Because all I saw on my Twitter timeline, it seemed like everybody was watching that last night. That's what it seemed like to me, that everybody seemed to be watching it. Well, the ratings are in. Were people watching it? Well, if you're following us on Twitter, at 973 ESPN, you might be surprised at the numbers. I'll give them to you. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And the free mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan, now open Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Next to Home Depot, online at mattblattnissan.com. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. You can follow me on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show. When we come back, how many people watched that ManningCast last night? Find out next. All right, I got more pet peeves coming in over on the free mobile app. You can message us through the app. Anthony in Margate says, yo, Mike, I just walked into this pet peeve in my house. When a person before you doesn't put the new roll of toilet paper on the toilet paper holder, it drives me nuts. Well, without getting into a big toilet discussion here, that doesn't bother me all that much because I use Cottonelles. I don't use regular toilet paper. So I don't even really notice that all that much. But I can understand how that would drive somebody crazy. You got that toilet paper sitting there, and then, it's not there for you. You got to go in the closet. Probably an uncomfortable situation. But I don't go that route. Sorry. But, Anthony, I'm with you, brother. Somebody, change that toilet paper roll for Anthony. What else we got? Couple more. Let me read off a couple of these that are coming in here. That one I read about the Atlantic City electric guys. Pet peeve at a gas station, people don't pull up to the furthest pump. Instead, pull up to the first one. That one's from Jim in Atlantic City. Yeah, that's the one where, they have the spot open, but they don't pull all the way through, and then you have to kind of go around that guy and then back yourself in to get gas. That doesn't happen to me a lot, not as much as the left-hand turn. Mark chimed in and said, my pet peeve of the left-hand turn lane is every light in the country. No, it's just the left-hand turn lane that happens more than anything. The regular one's not the same. It's where, you have to, you come to a rolling, hey, let's go. We're moving. It's our turn. Let's go. Let's see what else we got on the ManningCast last night. Mike, funny, I was just about to message you if you watched the Manning Monday before you asked. At first, I thought it was goofy because I was listening to Peyton talk about PB and J and not really focusing on the game. But it was kind of cool, and I got sucked in a little when Ray Lewis came on with real player feedback and conversation about the actual game of football. No, I thought it was good. It needs to be tweaked a little bit. It needs to be tweaked definitely a little bit. Now, over at 973ESPN.com, 44% ManningCast, 38% regular style, 16% didn't watch at all or listen to the game, and 2% of you listen to the game on the radio, which we appreciate. So thanks for the people who listen on the radio. We appreciate those people. The ManningCast. Now, this is the interesting part, is that our buddy John Oran over at Sports Business Journal, he put out the numbers from last night, and you might be surprised at the way those numbers went. ABC had a 6.5 rating. They were the highest ratings. So most people watched the game last night on Channel 6 ABC. 4.5 rating for ESPN. And on ESPN2, the ManningCast had a 0.6. So in other words, not too many people watched the ManningCast last night, which I'm actually kind of surprised about. Now, I thought it was funny at times. I thought it was sloppy at times. But I think there's some things they could do to fix it. Now, a couple of those things are just quick. Number one, the mic levels have to be fixed. It was really hard to hear Russell Wilson. I watched Russell Wilson. I did not see the whole thing. I was watching the game on the regular, and then I switched over and kind of went to the ManningCast as I saw people tweeting about it. That was in the fourth quarter. What I liked about the ManningCast is you're listening to Peyton Manning, the greatest, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, tell you what he would do or what he's seen and all those things. But he's also asking at that time what Russell Wilson thinks. Well, Russell Wilson's playing now. That was the cool part about it, is that Russell Wilson is a guy who's playing in the league now, and he's telling you what he's looking for and what he sees and what he thinks should happen. There's a part where at third down, it's a 4-down territory. They're telling you what they would want to do on their particular teams if they were in that situation. So I thought that part of it was kind of cool. And I didn't hear Kelsey. I didn't hear Barkley, and I didn't hear Ray Lewis. So I don't know what those were like. But what I didn't like was they got to do something with the mic levels and the Nat sound. The Nat sound on the actual game is too loud. You could hear like the crowd and all that stuff, and it takes away from the audio of the Mannings. Now, Josh, I know that you were a big fan of the ManningCast last night. Now, I didn't think it was bad, but I definitely think they could tweak it and make it better, and I think they will. I think they will moving forward. Like there was too much Peyton, not enough Eli, or you could say, well, I didn't really want to hear. It was just awkward. Like my girlfriend actually said it would be neat if the two of them were like sitting in their living room on the couch. They're in two different places. That makes it a little bumpy as well. I hate when people are in different places. It just makes for a bad broadcast.
That was my biggest issue, if I had to point to one, was the fact that Eli and Peyton weren't in the same place. Like, what exactly are Peyton and Eli doing with their lives that they can't be in the same place together for this?
Well, they don't live together.
Yeah, but they could meet up at his studio. You think Peyton's at his house? No,
neither one were. They were both at studios.
Right. So why can't they be at the same studio?
Well, I don't know where they live. Where does Peyton Manning live?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
No, the whole point of the whole thing is that ESPN wants him to do Monday Night Football. He doesn't want to do it because he doesn't have to
travel.
He doesn't want to travel.
Right.
So that's why he's there and Eli's in another spot.
I mean, Eli's already traveling around doing Eli's places. What's one more trip each week?
I don't think they want to travel. That's the whole. They wanted to do this on their terms, and ESPN just wanted to get them so bad that they were willing to make that concession that you could be there and you could be there. But that's going to take away from the show. The show itself is a great concept, and I'm interested to see if Fox, CBS, NBC do their versions of this.
Well, the problem is that who can they get that would be at this caliber of entertainment?
Well, no one's going to be better than Peyton Manning, but like, could NBC have well, they don't have NBC Sportsnet anymore.
They have Peacock. Maybe they could get people to go to the app.
Could they do it with Drew Brees and somebody else? Because apparently Drew Brees, who has hair now, was pretty good.
Right. You notice that?
Yeah, that was everywhere. But apparently Drew Brees was getting high marks for his work.
I mean, I thought he was solid. I wouldn't say that Brees like blew me away. Or
I mean, from what I was reading, people thought Brees was doing a really good job.
Yeah, he's solid.
But Drew Brees is not a bad, high-profile guy to say, hey, we're going to do our version with Drew Brees and, I don't know,
Rodney Harrison, I guess.
That could be a possibility. But, I mean, other networks could possibly, like CBS could put their game on, could do their version on CBS Sports Network. Fox could do theirs on FS1.
Correct. Right. There's a way to do this because we've seen that the ratings numbers, what the networks start doing is they accumulate all the numbers together.
Well, did you see the ratings for the ManningCast? They were not good. 0.6.
What was the total viewership, though?
Well, the ABC television had like a 6.5 share. ESPN TV had a 4.6, and the ManningCast had a 0.6.
So what ESPN will do is they'll just calculate all the numbers together.
Sure. But that's saying Fox, CBS, NBC, they all could possibly do their thing. All right, football at 4. It's coming up next. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it's brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. This hour of the show is brought to you by PropSwap. Download the PropSwap app today or go to PropSwap.com. Andrew DeCecco from Inside the Birds and the Inside the Birds podcast. He is here today for today's edition of Football at 4. So much to dive into. We want to see what Andrew's thoughts were on week number 1. Some of the things that stood out to him. It was a dominant performance, Andrew. I don't know that too many people thought it was going to be that dominant. I know you picked the Eagles to win the game, but was this a case of Eagles look good or Atlanta that bad?
Well, I certainly didn't see that sort of offensive onslaught from the Eagles, Mike. But what I will say is the Eagles just really executed, and it was clear from the early goings after they sort of settled in the running game against Mike Davis and found a solution for Calvin Ridley. I think it became very apparent that the Eagles were the better football team. And like I said on your show last week, they're stronger in the trenches on both sides, and that's ultimately where the game is won. And I think that's going to be the Eagles' hallmark throughout the season. If they can really get pressure from the defensive line and they can really keep a healthy offensive line in front of Jalen Hurts and have a little continuity there, they're going to win some football games because they have a good blend of veteran upside or veteran experience and young upside to really get some things going there. So it was a fun game to watch because they were just dominant on both sides. Yeah,
I mean, we talked a lot in the offseason about that offensive line and if they can stay healthy, but really a dominant performance. And that came from a line that had a lot of penalties. I mean, this game could have been even worse had the penalties been kind of cleaned up. And I think, Andrew, I want to get your opinion on this. That's an area where you shouldn't be so concerned because those penalties were coming from veteran players.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick Sirianni has mentioned this after the game, and he mentioned it yesterday as well. Take care of the things that require no talent. And that is being diligent in making sure you're cleaning up on those penalties. And a lot of them are from veteran players. That's easy to fix. It's when you have a talent deficiency and things of that nature that you really can't, you have a hard time masking that. But I think that, cleaning up penalties from a veteran player like a Lane Johnson, I could say Malo had a couple that were a little bit egregious. I mean, you're right. It could have very easily have been into the 40s. I mean, they were that dominant. So, I mean, those are easy things to clean up. And they're really going to have to with the 49ers coming to Philadelphia this weekend.
Yeah, we'll dive into that a bit. I want to get your thoughts. I know over at Inside the Birds, you really zoned in. Miles Sanders, I thought, had an underrated good game. But how about the way that Nick Sirianni utilized his running backs in general? What kind of, clues did you get about the way he's going to use these guys this year from week number 1?
Well, the first big clue was Saturday afternoon when they didn't make any moves by 4 o'clock and by promoting Jordan Howard to the active roster. When they didn't do that, I sort of had an idea that they were obviously going to roll in with those 3 running backs. But I thought, Mike, that it was going to be Miles Sanders and Boston Scott that were going to shoulder most of a load. Now, Boston Scott didn't see any offensive snaps. He saw 12 snaps on special teams. He wasn't even the kick returner, which was a little odd. But 47 snaps from Miles Sanders, 25 from the rookie Kenny Gainwell. And what really stood out to me was how he was utilized in the 2-minute offense and really in the red zone. And that tells me that they're very confident in his pass protection, his situational awareness, his ability to catch the football reliably, which Miles Sanders said after the game that he thinks that Kenny Gainwell has the best hands out of anyone in the running back room, which I don't think anyone will argue that. So when you have these different things, and Nick Sirianni said he saw it come together in practice, and when you hear that something like that, it's consistency. He was stacking together good practice enough so where they felt comfortable putting him in those critical situations. So I think that's going to be a very interesting tandem to watch moving forward. I don't know how Boston Scott will figure into that, but I think right now they have a very complementary 2-headed rushing attack moving forward.
Yeah, Andrew, and it seemed that like in the red zone areas in the 2-minute offense, that Gainwell was kind of the guy they leaned on. Like they trusted him right out of the get-go to be the guy in some key moments there.
Yeah, and like I said, that to me speaks to his situational awareness, his ability to protect the football, catch the football, reliably. He knew how he was, heads up awareness to get out of bounds there.
Yep.
On one of his catches. These are these are little things that the coaches have seen throughout practice, and they felt comfortable enough putting a rookie in his first NFL game in those very critical situations. So I think that speaks volumes to where Kenny is in his progression, which I didn't think that he was really going to be utilized until the first quarter of the season. I thought that rookie running backs especially tend to take a little bit more of a gradual progression, but he's remarkably ready to go and has a refined skill set. So like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how they choose to deploy both of these guys and distribute the snaps moving forward here, because they really do have a complementary pair of running backs.
Andrew DeCecco at DeCecco NFL, looking back at the Eagles' Week 1 win. I want to get your take, too, on the way he utilized his wide receivers. I loved the way he came out and went with Watkins right off the jump. It almost made the defense have to account for him the rest of the day, even though they didn't go back to him at all. I thought that was a really smart plan by Sirianni, and then it allowed the other receivers really to roam and get a lot of good looks. And I really thought that they set the tone with the Watkins off the jump.
Yeah, and that's really it was good to see. It was very interesting to see how they opened the game. It was Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who they utilized for his blocking ability. And to get the ball 3 times to Quez Watkins, you're right. The Falcons had to account for him right off the bat, and they weren't able to just think of him as a deep threat. They were like, okay, they're getting him the ball, and they're letting him take advantage of his explosive traits in space, which is really how I sort of envision them using Quez Watkins throughout the season. But they're not able to just line up and say, oh, this guy's running, he's going deep, they're going to air it out. They had to now account for him in confined spaces and in the open field, and I think that just opens up so many different things that the offense is able to do. And to start the game off like that, I thought was very astute from Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, all right. Then with the Watkins, obviously, he's the third guy. The second guy is Jalen Reagor, and he didn't have a catch until late in the game. Then they kind of got him involved. And I thought the catch and run after the catch that he showed was one of the better plays of the day for the whole entire offense. I mean, they really faked everybody out. But Reagor, I thought, did a really good job of making that play happen and turn it into a touchdown.
Well, it was a great read by Jalen Hurts, first and foremost. And then I think you saw the acceleration and burst that a player of Jalen Reagor's caliber has and what he can really be in this offense if utilized properly, which we didn't really see last season. Yeah, he wasn't peppered with targets. I don't envision him being a volume receiver, but he does have a lot of explosive ability and big play potential that I think will add another dimension to this offense. And it was nice to see him get involved late in the game. You're going to consistently see a rotation of wide receivers this season. They have a number of different guys that all provide something different. So outside of Devontae Smith, he's going to be, I believe he played 50 snaps or something to that effect. Quez Watkins played 34. You're going to see a lot of these guys sort of work in and not as much of Greg Ward, because he's a very one-dimensional player and he's always, what you're going to get at him. But as far as the top guys, Mike, you're going to see a lot of those guys shuffle in and out of the lineups because they can do so many different things.
Ward, by the way, just 16 snaps on the day. So here's a guy who was your leading receiver the last 2 seasons, really, was not a part of the offense hardly at all. Now, how did the way they used the tight ends, I don't know if anything stood out. And then Ertz had the hamstring, but he got 41 snaps. Goddard had 52. But Goddard had a couple extra catches, but I don't know. Did you get a good beat or read on the way they're going to use that, or is this kind of like, hey, it's just going to be a week-to-week thing with those 2 guys?
I think it's going to be more of a week-to-week thing with the tight ends, and I didn't really get to gauge how they were going to use them. They didn't use them creatively or anything, and they didn't really have to, given the way that the game was sort of unfolding. I thought the offense was largely horizontal, and they didn't really get vertical when I thought they had the opportunity to do so and stretch put some stresses on those safeties and Eric Harris and Deron Harmon that aren't necessarily fleet-footed or overly athletic and have a ton of range. But they had the game firmly in hand, so they didn't really need to sort of reveal how they're going to use these guys, moving forward. But we'll see what happens with Zach Ertz with the hamstring. I think they said it was precautionary, but that's something to monitor because obviously they're going to need all hands on deck against this 49ers defense this week.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll get more into the 49ers later on in the week with Andrew. He's back on Friday for football at 4. I want to flip over to defense. Jonathan Gannon spoke today. I looked at this. The 6 teams that had the least amount of blitzes in the NFL all won, and the Eagles were the 3rd lowest blitzing team in football. Last year, Andrew, you know it. People, they don't blitz enough. Schwartz never blitzes. Well, guess what? Jonathan Gannon didn't blitz either, and it seemed to work. So is that what we expect moving forward, is that they're going to try to get their pressure with their front?
Well, the beauty of having a dominant, healthy, that's the optimal term there, healthy front 4. Remember last season, Javon Hargrave had that neck injury, and it took him a while to sort of round into form. I don't even think he played in the first game last season. But just to have a disruptive, healthy, starting 4 that you can rely on to get home without needing a blitz, like that just adds so much more. That opens up the playbook for what Jonathan Gannon's able to do as far as deploying his coverage, his back end and the second level. I mean, it's just, if these guys are able to stay healthy, like I said, this team's going to win some football games here because they are dominant up front, and particularly on the interior, which I've always been of the belief that interior pressure is puts more stress on an offense than pressure off the edge, because you're not able to step up in the pocket. Even if you're not getting home on those plays, Mike, you're able to sort of get them off their spot. They can't really, it shortens those passing lanes, and it just disrupts the whole flow of the offense. So the fact that the Eagles have a healthy Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, and they look like they're in midseason form, I mean, that's pretty remarkable, and I think that's going to completely open up the playbook for what Jonathan Gannon's able to do.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Hargrave obviously had the 2 sacks, he had the tackle, he had 3 quarterback hits. He seemed to be on the stat sheet. Fletcher Cox didn't show up on the stat sheet at all. But does that mean he didn't play a good game? Because I saw some people saying, I'm starting to be concerned that maybe we're seeing a drop-off from Fletcher Cox. I just thought he was taking on a lot of blocks, and Hargrave was taking advantage of it.
No, and that's where folks need to be careful about reading into the box score, because the box score doesn't reveal all. Fletcher Cox was quite disruptive despite not appearing in the box score, and he created other opportunities. He commands double teams consistently. And when he does so, you're creating different opportunities for your teammates to get home and bring down the quarterback or get behind the line of scrimmage and get those TFLs. So he's so valuable to this defense that, you can't measure his impact on a box score or stat sheet, because he has so much of an impact on the game. Just simply being out there and being available.
Yeah, I want to get to the linebackers too, because early in the game, they're getting run all over, and people are like, wow, these linebackers are a little light. What is the role of the linebacker in this defense now?
Well, I mean, it's sort of tough to determine. It's hard to make that distinction off of one game, especially when the game was so far out of reach. I don't know that they were overly creative in how they were using them, particularly the Sam linebacker. I don't think we have much clarity on that. But, yeah, it's one of those things where the defensive line is going to have to keep these linemen off of from getting to that second level and covering up these linebackers and Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson whiffed on quite a few tackles, and I think that obviously him and Singleton are not downhill players. They're a little bit undersized. They have that sideline to sideline range and short area quickness, but they're not someone that can really attack downhill and bring down a running back, especially someone who has so much momentum and low center of gravity as a Mike Davis. So I think that you really need to find – these guys are more coverage-oriented, and I think that right now you have George Kittle coming into Philadelphia, and you're going to really see how they're going to deploy them. I mean, I thought that Kyle Pitts was going to have a field day against this defense, but that didn't quite happen. And when the Eagles defense is able to pin their ears back when the score gets like that, and they know what you're going to do, it sort of eliminates the element of surprise. So.
Yeah, that was well put. And there's so much like the way they handled Ridley and Pitts. Like when you look back at that and say, how are they able to minimize what Ridley did? He had the 4 catches. I mean, he had a nice little stretch earlier. Like, oh, they're going after him. They shut him down, and Pitts was a non-factor.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. If the Eagles are able to get out to an early lead, they're going to be able to, minimize some of the impact of some of the opposition's top players. I mean, it sounds simple, and then why doesn't every team do that? But that's really going to be the Eagles' recipe for success. Then they can pin their ears back and allow their dominant front four, which they've invested significant money and resources in, and let them just get home and it just takes so much pressure off your secondary. So it's kind of, if they can get out to an early lead against the 49ers, they're going to have a fighting chance in this game, and they still very well may. But that's really what it's going to come down to, and that's why you saw Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts become pretty much non-factors, because once they got into a hole, you knew where they were going. The Eagles knew where they were going, and you're able to do everything you can to stop those two guys. And they weren't really worried about Russell Gage or Olamide Zaccheaus or the running game for that matter. So, Cordero Patterson had a couple nice plays and things like that. But outside of those two guys, they didn't really have any impact players. So it made it very easy to defend once the game got out of reach.
Andrew DeCecco, football at 4. Lastly, you save the best for last sometimes, but the way Hurts played and the way he played and how different it was in terms of what we saw from that position last year. Didn't turn the ball over, made quick, smart decisions, threw the ball away. And you wonder if they had that kind of play last year, are they a 4-win team?
Yeah, you have to love the command, the poise, the decision-making, the maturity from Jalen Hurts. He really looks like a different player from last season. And he had we've talked ad nauseum about having a full offseason and what that can do for a player's development. And you're starting to see what he's able to fully do. And you're working with the coaching staff that knows how to accentuate the strengths of each player. And, I really think that when Jalen Hurts is playing free, he's not pressing. He has an unwavering confidence about him. And I think Nick Sirianni's just finding ways to put him in the best position to be successful. And if he's able to do that consistently throughout the season, you're going to see an offense that's going to put up points in bunches.
Yeah, I know that watching the quarterback position last year, people were pulling their hair out of their head. This game, it was just fun watching it, and it all comes back to I thought Sirianni had such a good game plan, and he really accentuated the positives of his talent that he had on the field.
Yeah, and that's very true to what he's been sort of saying since he got here, right? Sometimes you hear coaches speak, and everything that they say sounds good, but then you see something totally different on Sundays. With Nick Sirianni, he's driven home the element of competition and accentuating the players, putting them in position to be successful, and really sort of tailoring the game plan to his personnel instead of tailoring the personnel to his system, so to speak, which is what the previous regime did. And I think what you're seeing now is, this is just one game, but you're seeing a cohesive unit, and guys are putting in successful positions. And I think that you're going to see different roles for different guys. And of course, Watkins is going to have his stuff, and you're going to see Kenny Gainwell have his packages. And it's very exciting to see how he chooses to utilize these guys in the coming weeks.
Andrew DeCecco, football at 4. He's back on Friday. He'll give you his thoughts on the Eagles and 49ers in that one. Couple key injuries already for the Niners. Remember, the Eagles beat San Francisco last year as one of their 4 wins. That was a Sunday night game out in San Francisco. Alex Singleton had that pick 6 return for a touchdown. Nick Mullins was the trigger man for San Francisco. He, of course,
and Brandon Ayuk had that 35-yard run where he leaped over Marcus Epps and made him a poster. So
right, we'll see Ayuk is essentially out of their lineup now, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Kyle Shanahan to reveal him and utilize him against the Eagles this week. He seems to have that Bill Belichick approach where you might see one running back this week or this player this week, and they kind of bases him off of matchups. I'm still not entirely ready to write off Brandon Ayuk. I have a funny feeling he's going to have a prominent role this week.
All right. Andrew DeCecco, football at 4, back Friday. Thanks, pal.
No problem. See you then.
And Andrew's great. As always, we'll talk to him on Friday. He's picked for the Eagles Falcons. He had the Eagles winning that game, so he is 1-0 with his picks on the season as well. Football at 4 is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Give me a follow over there. Don't forget to download the free mobile app, and you can do that in the Apple Store or Google Play, and you can message us right through your free mobile app. It's easy to do. A lot of ways to get in touch with the Sports Bash, including the live video stream, which is easy to do. Just go to YouTube, search 973 ESPN, follow us on Twitter at 973 ESPN, and you can hit the message comments section. A lot of comments coming in over there. All right, coming up. Who's in? Who's out? Which teams will make the NFL playoffs? 14 teams will get in. Will the Eagles be on my list? Find out when Who's In, Who's Out comes up next. 427 Sports Bash, Tuesday afternoon. This hour brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. All right, we'll do who's in, who's out in just a second. I think the who's in, who's out this year, because you have 7 teams now, right? You got 7 teams each week making the playoffs. So that's going to make it a little bit more interesting and difficult to do, because last year, as we said, there wasn't even 7 playoff teams half the time. Last year, you had the Bears that got into the playoffs last year. You know, obviously people were talking about the Washington football team. They had to get in because they won the division, but you had an 8-8 team. You had a 7-9 team. So let's see who's in and who's out of the playoffs after 1 week. What did we learn? Well, let's see. All right. This is after week 1. In the AFC East, I'm going to stick with Buffalo, even though they lost. I'll go Buffalo in the East. They lost 0-1. I still like Buffalo. In the North, last time, in week 1, I went with Baltimore. I'm a little conflicted on that this time. I think my North team, even though they lost, I'm going to go with Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh was probably the most impressive team. I need to see more from Pittsburgh. Their defense looked great. Cleveland, though, impressed me hanging in there on the road against Kansas City, even though they blew that game. I think the Browns are actually pretty good. So I'm going to go Cleveland in the North. Baltimore, I think the Raiders stink. So them losing that game last night concerns me about Baltimore. I don't think they stink. I think they're average. I think the Raiders are just very average. Not a big Gruden guy. In the South, I'm going to stick with Tennessee, even though they look the worst out of every team in that division, and that includes Jacksonville. I like Tennessee to fix things and get that thing righted. So I'm going to stick with Tennessee for another week, even though they looked terrible last week. And so did Indianapolis, by the way. In the West, I'm going to go with Kansas City. All 4 of those teams won. Now, last week, my wild cards were Cleveland, Indy, and New England. All 3 of those teams lost this week. So my wild cards this week are a little different. I'm going to go with Miami, Pittsburgh, and I'll tell you the team that impressed me that I'm going to put on this list. And it's interesting because I think John Clayton had them on, and I was like, I don't agree with that. But it was the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers as my 3rd playoff team. I like the fact that they went on the road and won a close game. That's something they haven't been able to do. So I'll go Chargers as my 3rd playoff team. Miami, Pittsburgh, Chargers. Buffalo, Cleveland, Tennessee, Kansas City. So my 3 playoff teams, my 3 wild card teams are different this time around from the first time that we did who's in, who's out. That was the preseason edition. This is after week 1. So we have a little bit of information on these teams. Not a whole heck of a lot, but just a little bit of information. So we'll go that route this time around. So obviously, as we said, this thing is very fluid. It will be changing as we kind of get more information each and every week. All right, so let's go to the NFC East. In the East, I'm going to go Dallas. I think Dallas, much like Cleveland, was the most impressive loser of the week in the NFC. So I'll go Dallas in the East. Green Bay looked horrible, but I'm going to give them another spin. I'll go Packers in the North. All right. Now, the South is interesting. I like Tampa still, but you remember last year, New Orleans won that division. Don't forget that. New Orleans won the division last year. Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. But I thought the Saints looked really impressive in their week 1 win. Out West, last week I had the 49ers. I'm going to stick with the 49ers, which, makes them losing this week difficult for my pick if you go from that direction. All right. So I will go with the 49ers to win the game this week. I mean, not to win the game this week, with them in the West. All right? What else we got here? All right, now I need my 3 wild card teams. So I'm going to go with the wild card teams I had last week. Seattle, the Rams, and New Orleans. They were my 3 wild card teams last week. They will be my 3 wild card teams again this week. So really, no changes for me in the NFC this week. So Dallas, Green Bay, Tampa, San Francisco, Seattle, LA, New Orleans. Now, let's kind of bring it home here. Arizona, they could sneak into this thing, obviously. All those teams that are in the NFC West, I think all of them could be fighting for a playoff spot out there. They're all very, very good, talented teams. So they are going to be a constant teams to keep an eye on. New Orleans and Tampa Bay, I think those 2 teams are going to be interesting in the South. Carolina won, not ready to buy into them yet. In the North, everybody lost. All 4 teams in the North lost, and there's not a team in the North that I like. Green Bay would be the one, although they were in my Fine 5 last week, Green Bay. That will probably change. Obviously, Philadelphia looked the best of all the teams in the NFC East. Dallas, though, I'm going to stick with them for at least this week. We'll see what happens when the 2 teams play in week number 3. So that's my look at the NFC. Over on the other side, though, this is where it's interesting. Vegas gets a big win against Baltimore. So now they have a head-to-head against Baltimore. That's one. Denver, they win on the road, but that's an NFC win, so not as impactful. So that's why I'm holding off on it on Denver. The Chargers, you could say, well, they have an NFC win, and theirs was on the road. They've lost that game for 5 years in a row, though. That's the difference. And I like their quarterback better than I like Denver's quarterback. So I like Denver or LA slightly over Denver. And that division, all 4 teams won. The most impressive thing about the Raiders last night to me was their playmakers. I mean, Waller is just ridiculous. And they've got some speed. Ruggs obviously can run like crazy. I like some of their playmakers. In the South, Houston won. Obviously, they're not winning that division. And if they do, that would be one of the biggest upsets of all time. Jacksonville's dreadful. But even as bad as Jacksonville is, their plus minus is minus 16. Tennessee's is minus 25. They were the worst team in the division, but I like them the most. This North is really good. Pittsburgh's defense was outstanding. Cincinnati, they got an overtime win. Cleveland went toe-to-toe with Kansas City. And Baltimore, unfortunately, Baltimore was the worst team in that division on this weekend. And then in the East, the Dolphins' defense is really good. The Patriots' defense is pretty good, too. Buffalo, I like them. I think they have the most talent. New England, I had in the initial. But offensively, I was pretty disappointed. Now, I know Miami's got a pretty good defense, but I was pretty disappointed with New England's offense the other day. I'm wondering, when I look around at their offense, how the heck are they going to score? They just don't have a whole heck of a lot of playmakers on that team, right? So that's a big concern for me there. So who's in, who's out this week? I got Miami in. I've got Miami in this week. I did not have them in last week. All right. So that is the one new team in on that side. Also, Chargers in this week. Did not have them in the last time either. So a couple of new teams. My NFC is exactly the same. The only difference on the NFC side of things is that Philadelphia now, which probably wasn't under consideration before, they kind of slip in because of the way they played. Other than that, I don't know. Washington might have been under consideration. Them losing their quarterback slides them back. If you liked Minnesota entering the year, nothing about what they did in week 1 would make you like them anymore. I think all 4 teams in the West, I think we all liked all 4 teams in the West. They all looked good. So who did I forget? Who belongs on the list? Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. I'm looking at, I'm trying to see, like Indianapolis, that's a team that I like going in. I didn't know what to think of Wentz. I thought Wentz looked very erratic. He had a good start. I think he was 9 of 10 to start the game. Then he was all over the place. Buffalo was the most, I mean, I guess they were the most, they couldn't get, Buffalo's problem on Sunday was they couldn't score in the red zone. If you watch that game back, they had problems in the red zone, but Pittsburgh's defense was excellent. Denver, we kept hearing so much about Denver's roster and their quarterback problems. You know, Bridgewater played a pretty good game. The Giants' defense, though, I'm having a tough time with them. So there's so many different things that happened. It's only week 1, obviously. This list is going to be constantly evolving and changing. You know, Bridgewater, to me, was very efficient, 28 to 36, but no interceptions. That's the big thing for Bridgewater. Taking care of the ball. He's typically a pretty good, he just doesn't do the big play. He doesn't have the big play ability sometimes. So Denver's a team, that's why I like Herbert better than Denver. I like the Chargers better than I like Denver in this situation. All right, Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Don't forget, you can always download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. And the Sports Bash Who's In, Who's Out is brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think, online at bmwatlanticcity.com. Tomorrow I'll do my Fine 5, Ugly 5. You could tell me who you think should be in or out of the NFL playoffs, which teams did I leave out that should be in, which teams are in that should be out. It's really hard in week 1. You know, these are I only have 1 week worth of resume so far. There's so many teams that are so evenly matched. Like these guys do these power rankings. I'm thinking, what separated one team from another team when you did these power? Like let me look at ESPN's power rankings for week number 1. Where did Philadelphia land on this list? Let's see, 21st. All right, they were 27th in the preseason. They moved up to 21. Washington football team, they are 22. The Giants are 28. So there's 3 teams in the NFC East in the power rankings now ranked below Philadelphia. And Dallas, who lost and looked pretty good, is 13th. They actually dropped a spot. Now, I don't know how that's possible. How Dallas went from 12 to 13 after the way they played on opening night. Now, every team, like Green Bay is 11 and Arizona is 12. Right now, I think Arizona might be a better team than Green Bay. Green Bay is a team that just, I don't know. I don't know what happened to them on Sunday. That was just so bizarre. Baltimore, they have ranked 10th. New Orleans, 9. Pittsburgh, 8. San Francisco, 7. Cleveland, 6. Buffalo, 5. See, Buffalo lost and is still 5. That's why Dallas, to me, losing that game and dropping seems a little odd to me. I thought Dallas looked like, put it this way, Dallas looked better than Green Bay did, right? Dallas looked better than Baltimore did. Dallas looked better than, I'm not saying they should be ranked higher than Cleveland or Buffalo, but both those teams lost. Who was last? Jacksonville, the Jets, Detroit, Houston, the Giants. So the Giants, Washington, and Philadelphia. Now, Washington and New York both dropped below Philadelphia now. So Philadelphia moving up, those 2 teams moving down. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. That's Who's In, Who's Out. Pete Thompson tonight for a Tuesday with Thompson. We'll get PT's reaction to the Eagles' win. Is he buying in? He picked up the win, but PT can be a little flimsy sometimes. He goes back and forth. So we'll get his thoughts on what he thought of the Eagles' Week 1 win and his thoughts moving ahead in the NFC East. That's all coming up on Tuesday with Thompson at 5 o'clock. All right, coming up on 5 o'clock, Tuesday with Thompson, the PT will be here. We'll have a little fun with the PT. I'll ask him his pet peeves, too, by the way. Does he back into parking spots? We had a lot of pet peeves coming in throughout the show today. Mike, great Q&A with Andrew. He's the best. As we all been saying, it's great to have a coaching staff that are teachers and obviously game plan towards their players' strength and skill set. Take the 3.5. That's Phil, who chimed in on the text board, 609-403-0973. By the way, we were talking about Peyton Manning and that whole megacast earlier. The reason why they're not in the same studio, Peyton lives in Denver, Eli lives in Jersey, so they're not going to get in the same studio. They're going to do it this way, which is going to hurt it, by the way. It's going to hurt the whole thing. Cole from LBI, the ManningCast needed a host to help guide the Mannings and help ask questions the viewers would want to ask. Also, would have worked better if the Mannings were in the same room instead of broadcasting from different places. Yeah, that was my biggest issue with the whole thing is having the guys in different spots. Look, we do stuff where we're in different places sometimes here. It's hard, man. It's not easy. People are like, well, you can see each other. Doesn't help. You know, it's just makes it for clunky. You know, a lot of times there's a lot of nonverbal, but there's like you're sitting in the same studio as another person. You can point at the guy. You have a little hand signal. Have a little nonverbal communication. You're not in the same studio. You can't get that, and you end up talking over top of guys. It does make it a lot more difficult to kind of have a clean, smooth show. That would be my one big thing, but that's not going to happen. Mike, number one pet peeve: socks with sandals. No way, especially in a beach town. Socks with shoes or barefooted with sandals. Yeah, the whole sandals thing with the socks, a lot of the young kids wear the sandals all the time, and they wear them with socks all the time, too. It's not a pet peeve of mine. I'm just like, look, when you take a picture of yourself down the road and you look back and say, I wore slides with socks while I was growing up, you're going to be like, man, I look like a jackass. But I'm not a big, man, see, even though I grew up down the shore, I grew up a block from the beach, man. I was a little beach bum. I'm just not a big flip-flop sandals guy. I don't like wearing flip-flops or sandals. I'm just not a fan of the sandal, man. I'm not a fan of the slides or the sandals. I'm out on that, but definitely not with the I don't like wearing, man, the second I get home, the first thing that happens is the shoes and socks right off, man. I cannot stand it. Now, that being said, when I go back outside, I know people who will walk in the grass in their bare feet. I'm out on that, man. If I go outside, I got to put shoes on. I can't walk in the grass barefoot like that. But I also don't like getting my flip-flops wet. The flip-flop can't get wet because what happens to the flip-flop when it gets wet? It gets stinky, man. You get the rubbery, the water gets in there. So I'm out. So that text message, number one pet peeve. Now people are asking, what the hell are you talking about? Talking about pet peeves earlier. People were bombarding me with text messages, so I'm getting back to some that I didn't get a chance to. Mike, pet peeve, when you're waiting for someone to make a right turn and they miss multiple opportunities to go because they're scared or can't time it. And that's not a pet peeve of mine, though. But I get what you're saying. Like, it doesn't happen enough. The pet peeve comes into play when it's something that perpetually happens. Someone making the right turn, like a right on red, or like our parking lot at work here. It's the weirdest setup. One of the exits, we have like a ladies' nail salon out front. I mean, I guess a guy could go if he wants a pedicure or a manicure. I'm not questioning you. I don't really care. But mostly it's ladies coming in and out of there. So it's constant traffic coming in and out of the parking lot where we are. That being said, one of the exits to the parking lot here, you can't make a left-hand turn, but the other one you can. I mean, and the one that you can make the left-hand turn out of would be the one that I would say you shouldn't be able to make the left-hand turn out of, because so many times the one that you can make the left-hand turn, there's another parking lot from the strip mall next to us that people can make a right-hand turn out of there. So we're allowed to make a left in the one, but they can make rights there. You would think we should be able to make the lefts out of the other exit, right?
Also add
you know
in
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and also add in the fact that people are also turning in on that same exit that you can make a left on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times that you're trying to turn in there, and people, they're not really aware enough of where they are in like the space that they're in. So you're trying to turn into the lot, and you're looking at them like, are you going to give me enough space to fully make this turn? While the person behind you is looking at you like, what is this guy doing? Why is he not making this turn?
Yeah.
On Tilton Road.
Yeah. It's that to me, they got it backwards. I don't know who
Definitely
makes that
backwards.
decision. Who made the decision to say you can't make a left out of here, but you can make a left out of here?
That's why a lot of times I actually take the back way in because I just don't want to deal
Well,
with
I
it.
take the back way in when I get here because I live back that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just like when I go to lunch or when I leave during the day, I go out the front. And the front, the left-hand one is the one that you have to make the left. The other one you can't make a left out of.
And technically it's like a three-way traffic flow. So it's like the bizarrest setup, as you said.
Yeah, now, a couple of years ago, it had to be 5-10 years ago now. Time flies, right? The right-hand lane here on Tilton Road to go on to New Road. So I complained about it on the radio one time, and somebody in the newspaper wrote an article about me complaining about it, and they
really?
fixed it.
Wow.
Because you couldn't make a right-on red there. I said, well, why the hell wouldn't you be? You should be able to make a right-on red everywhere. There's no reason why a right-on. Give me one instance where a right-on red shouldn't be allowed.
I mean, not a good one. I can't give you a good one.
No, there's no good reason.
Right.
So they had this new right here, and they changed it back to no turn on red. What is the explanation? And I'm willing to be open on this one. What is any explanation that could be given why a no turn on red would come into play? Now, I get it in like a beach town where the cars are parked and there's a lot of bikers. Maybe. But on Tilton Road in Northfield, why the hell would there be a no turn on red?
Right. Where you are should determine whether it's a no turn on red. Like you said, if it's an area where making a right turn would be hazardous to somebody, that's one thing. But this is not the kind of area that there's like a bunch of foot traffic or a bunch of bikers or a bunch of strange turning situations. Like, for example, you have the situation over there. I mentioned Marmora earlier. I drive through Marmora every day to from work. And that traffic light setup is literally one side at a time because of how it's set up. And it's a little bizarre, but, that's how they have it controlled. Not saying I like it, though. I mean, it drives me nuts. But
Pet peeve, Matt, from Dennisville. Someone making a left turn, but before they turn left, they swerve over to the right so you can't go around them or someone driving significantly under the speed limit. I don't know what that first one is.
So, like, they're making like a really wide left turn?
Right? Are they making a wide left?
I mean, if that's the case, then maybe there's a bad driver.
Yeah, that one needs to be explained better. The driving significantly under the speed limit doesn't happen enough for it to be my pet peeve. A pet peeve
it's something
has
that
to
happens
be something
often.
Happens often enough that it bothers. It forced you to become bothered because of the amount of times that it happened.
Like, for example, the biggest pet peeve of my life has been people who don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's just disgusting.
Okay, I mean, I saw it in high school. I saw it in college. I've seen it my entire life. I don't understand dudes who don't wash their hands after using
Well, you're hanging out with a dirty crowd.
But I go everywhere and I see this. And I look at people, I give them the dirtiest look when they do it. And sometimes they say something to me. Sometimes
Does
they
it
just
force them to then, do you guilt them into washing their hands?
I hope I do. I really do. I don't know if I have that kind of power, though.
Dan from EHT says, my pet peeve is Joe Girardi doing his post-game press conference in a T-shirt just to show his guns. Yeah, I don't like Girardi's T-shirt, that one with the bell on it. He could do a better job. Like, you're the Phillies. Design something cooler than that.
That is a pretty weak shirt.
He wears it all the time. All right, what's Pete Thompson's pet peeve? I'll ask him that. Is he does he back into parking spots? That's one of mine. 5 o'clock driving you home on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. It's brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage in South Jersey. For your next local or long-distance move, Clark's Moving and Storage is your first call. Their dependable will always show up online, clarksmoving.net. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Happy to have you on board on this Tuesday. It is a Tuesday with Thompson. The PT is here. We'll see if PT has any pet peeves. I gave a couple of my pet peeves, and then people have been texting them in all throughout the show. Hey, Mike, if you're at a red light and there's a car opposite you at the same red light, may get a green left arrow to turn left. If you turned right on red, you could hit that car who has a green left arrow. That's a lot going on there. But I don't think that's the case at this particular spot on Chilton Road in Northfield. Pete Thompson is here for a Tuesday with Thompson, the PT. Hi, Peter.
Hello, Michael. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great, man. It's as if you're sitting right next to me.
Well, I masked up because it's mandatory to enter with a mask. I'm about to go eat dinner at the Penrose Diner before I go to the Phillies game tonight.
Nice. So you're going to the Phillies game tonight against the Cubbies. Yep.
Yeah, I think they got a chance, right? Even though I'm ready to write this team off, the fact that it's Kyle Gibson tonight and they're playing the Cubs, I actually think that's a team they might be able to beat.
Yeah, we thought that about the Rockies too. By the way, no JT Realmuto, and apparently he needed a cortisone shot or something. That's why he's not playing.
Oh, geez. I heard you say the lineup earlier. So what do you have it in front of you again? Just for giggles?
I can give it to you, Peter. I'm very quick on the dial. You know that, right?
Yes, faster than me. Faster than Josh.
Quick. All right, here you go. Ready? Herrera, Segura, Harper, McCutchen, Miller, Gregorius, Torreyes, Knapp, Gibson.
Oh, Torreyes is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I thought so too. Hey, by the way, so I hear your voice doing the LPGA commercial. I'm very disappointed that when you did Lexi Thompson, you didn't say no relation.
Well, you've done those commercials before, right? You understand that we were on a time constraint. We were trying to shave time wherever we could.
Yeah. Well, whatever you say, blah, blah, blah. Lexi Thompson, no relation. Like, I thought you were really was a perfect opportunity for you to get that in there.
That's so funny. I mean, I need you to be like my ghostwriter. I need you to tell me exactly, hey, PT, you're dropping the ball here. That would have helped out tremendously.
Now, PT, we've been doing pet peeves for most of the day today.
Okay.
People have been texting them in. Now, I gave my pet peeves. I had two big ones that really grind my gears. Does the PT have any pet peeves off the top of his head?
Pet peeves that people that say anyways instead of anyway, right?
Wow, that wasn't you pulled right out. I like that.
That's an easy peasy one for me. People that put a lot as one word, a lot is two words. That one bugs me. I mean, a lot of mine have to do with grammar and spelling.
Yeah, you're the grammar Nazi guy.
I guess I am. I mean, my mother was an English teacher. My grandmother was an English teacher. So, if you're going to take the time to do it right.
Mine both had to do with driving. Like, do you back into a parking spot?
Yeah, there's one. Thanks, water for me. Sorry, guys. If you pull into a parking spot backwards, it drives me crazy, the people that back into parking spots.
Right.
Why are you taking so much time?
The backing into the parking spot, unnecessary, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. But now, for example, I just rode a Tesla for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Right. I understand if you're it's not my car. If you're in a Tesla, I get it where you might want to not back in, but you want to be away from the other cars. That makes sense to me. Like if somebody wants to there's a guy that I work with that actually drives a Porsche and parks at 80 spots away from everybody else. I understand that move. But I don't understand the backing in. Seriously, what are you robbing the bank? Why do you have to have the fast getaway? What are you doing?
Yeah. Now, my other one is left-hand turn lane. When that arrow goes, I might be the fourth, fifth, third car. I'm rolling. I'm moving. Why isn't the guy in front of me rolling and moving?
Probably because they're on their phone texting when they're not supposed to be, right?
Every single one, though. Come on, let's go. All of us in unison. There's no need to not start until it's your turn to go. Everybody could roll at the same time. It's amazing to me that nobody else thinks like that.
Well, that's the truth. You got to anticipate. I mean, I drive anticipatory, not action reaction, right? Or as my father likes to say, who will be joining us in a moment, he always says, "Be proactive, not reactive." Be proactive, right? So that's what you're doing, Gill. You're proactive.
Yeah. Pet peeve: Odubel Herrera batting leadoff with a .250 on base percentage. Now that's funny.
I mean, aren't there a bunch of people that have underperformed for the Phillies this season? Odubel being one of them.
Yeah.
You know, guys, I mean, Joe Girardi is at wit's end. And I heard you talking yesterday about him being on the hot seat. And I almost kind of feel like, is that how much of it is Joe Girardi and how much of it is the talent that he's given?
Well, your boy Gabe Kapler has the best record in baseball, and everybody said, "Oh, they folded down the stretch." Well, sure enough, they have the best record in baseball in September.
You know, my boy Gabe Kapler, he's not my boy, but you know, he's got a place where he's buying in, and it does baffle me. Like, how could that be the same guy that was so tone deaf to Philadelphia, and yet he's getting like an all-world season out of a guy like Darren Ruff, right? How is that happening in San Francisco? How are they successful in San Francisco, and yet the same manager was a bust in South Philly?
Seems like that happens a lot when Terry Francona, they got rid of him here. He turns out to be one of the best managers in baseball. He wins a World Series, a couple of them in Boston. He goes to Cleveland, gets them to a World Series. You know, that seems to happen a lot. All right, Tuesday with Thompson. The PT's here. We got to talk about the Eagles. I mean, I know you picked them to win the game, but they won handily, PT. Then, of course, it's, well, they beat the world. You know, Atlanta's horrible. So how do we read this win?
I think you temper it because they did play the Falcons, and the Falcons really played a poor football game. But that said, it was the Falcons that played the poor football game, not the Eagles. And at the end of the day, you know, you ask anybody that's involved in football, and they'll tell you it is tough to win in the National Football League, and especially when you go on the road. They went on the road. They won a football game. Did they look all world doing it? Not at times, but they did what they were supposed to do. And I thought I saw more good things than negative things. So I'm happy. I mean, they'll get a real litmus test this coming Sunday when they play the Niners. But I just saw on my phone on the ride up here that Mostert is now, it's an official ACL, right?
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, you know, not that I'm rooting for anybody's injury or anything, but that obviously changes the Niners attack.
Okay, but you said, like, not that they were world beater. Like, I did 3 up, 3 down yesterday. I was stretching to find 3 down yesterday. Like, what did they do other than the penalties? The penalties was a problem. But other than that,
Lane Johnson on the penalties would be one. What else did they do that was a 3 down? God. You know, now that I think about it, because clock management was good, the drive at the end of the half was good. I mean, if you're really nitpicking, you could say that Jalen Hurts on one throw didn't really get his full torso into it to get it to Zach Ertz. He kind of threw a Carson Wentz underthrow.
You can't put Jalen Hurts in anything negative. Come on.
I'm just trying to slice and dice. Yeah, you called it. I'm trying to find 3 negatives. I can't find 3 down.
I gave my 3 down. My 3 down were the penalties,
right?
Early on in the game, the tackling.
Oh yeah, they were kind of over pursuing and getting out of their lanes,
right? And the last one was, I still think they have a problem at punt returner.
Oh yeah, I would say that, because the punt returner kept going east to west. You know, my father always likes to say north and south, go north to south, stop going east to left.
Yeah, well,
you know,
he had 4 returns for 19 yards, Rieger. I just don't think Rieger, like Greg Ward, they only put him back there just to kind of catch the ball. Well, the problem is that's what Rieger's doing. He's just there to catch the ball, but I'm more concerned that he's going to try to make something happen. They got to figure out that. But other than that, like, that's really nitpicking, right?
It really is. I mean, and 1-0 is better than 0-1. You sit there and you look at whole divisions.
Okay,
right,
well, So entering the season, your expectations might have been X, but after seeing week 1, have they changed?
Oh, I like that. Okay, so entering the season, I had 7-10 as my prediction, right? That's where I thought they would have finished. And entering, I had originally had Dallas winning the division, and then Washington, somewhere down near the bottom. And then Baldy got me so fired up that I switched Dallas and Washington. Just for the Eagles, I look at it like I'm willing to take that 7-10 I'm willing to give them another win now. I'm willing to move it up to 8-9, or maybe even like 9-8, maybe.
Okay, well, I had said, and I didn't give like an official record or whatever, but I said if the offensive line can remain healthy and the defensive line can remain healthy, I think the ceiling for this team is a 10-win season.
Yeah, and if they win 10 wins, then they probably win the division.
I think Dallas is going to be pretty good. I mean, Washington losing their quarterback, I think, really has changed the dynamic there. I think New York's offensive line is just such a problem that they just can't get. You can't consistently win in this league if you can't block.
Well, like the narrative on Washington changed when Fitzmagic's hip fell out, and now they have to go with the backup, right? I mean, that changes a huge thing, I think, in Washington. But you're right. I mean, the way the Cowboys hung with Tampa in that first game, and there's a lot of potential there. Zach Martin's coming back. As much as I hate to admit the Cowboys are good, they look pretty good. I don't know if they can stop anybody, but they certainly look like they can put up points.
Well, the interesting part is Philly will play Dallas next Monday night, and that's their only division game, Peter. That's the only division game that the Eagles will play until November the 28th.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. They like to back end some of these division games and make the drama build in the later weeks of the season, correct? So, I mean,
well, you got Washington playing New York on Thursday night. I mean, the other teams are playing each other, but for whatever reason, Philly is not in on that dance.
But do you feel like, I mean, you get the Washington and New York, also media markets. New York's 1 and Washington's 7 or 8, something like that, maybe 12. I understand Philly's 4, but I don't know. I really don't have a good explanation for that one. Why they back ended?
No, this is the first time I can remember that that you've literally the Eagles are playing. They play 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's their other Dallas game? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 1, 2, 3, 4. They play 4 straight in the division. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of their last 6 games are in the division.
But I always thought that they had the last 2 or 3 in the division. All they've really done is goose that from like 3 to 5. Almost always for the last decade, at least that I can remember, they either close with the Giants or they close with the Washington football team, or sometimes they close with the Giants, Dallas, or the Washington.
Well, this year was Washington.
3.
Yeah, last year it was Washington.
Right, and they pulled the starters, and then the Giants fans got all pissed off because the Eagles were tanking so they could get a higher draft pick.
Yeah, well, and they ended up getting Devonta Smith. What'd you think of him?
Ooh, I really like that. I was always high on Devonta Smith to begin with. There's a lot of people out there that say like a paper bag weighs more than him and this, that, the other thing. I thought you saw a chemistry between him and Jalen Hurts. I also thought that he ran more precise routes. Like he looked like a polished receiver. And the big thing for me is a guy like that running precise route, his very first catch in the NFL is a touchdown. Okay. Although Zach Ertz had a little assist on that on his rub, but I think a guy like that, when he's precise and on, then that's why Jalen Reagor all of a sudden is better. That's why the tight ends get involved in the game a little bit more. You have to have somebody at the top that is the legitimate number 1 threat. And he looked pretty darn good.
He definitely did. But I really like the way Sirianni opened the game with Watkins 3 straight. It was almost like they were trying to set something up. You would then have to account for Watkins almost the rest of the game.
100%. And that to me is like Sirianni's play calling. I don't know if that gets enough credit, and the fact that there didn't seem to be any panic in him. The word calm struck me at a lot of times. And for Jalen Hurts, like the poise that he had too, like just or the spidey sense. There was a play, and I saw Ray Dinger talk about it after the game, where Jalen Hurts did get caught from behind. And I remember as it happened, I was like, oh, look out, right? And then like I just thought to myself, as soon as the play was done, I thought, last year, if that was Wentz, he would have fumbled that football.
That was a big key too, Peter, was that Hurts didn't turn the ball over. He looked when there was pressure, he just got rid of it, or he eluded the pressure. Like he just had that calmness about him.
Yeah, and why do we think that is? Because he's overcome so many obstacles, because he played in elite, like he played in elite Division I football, right? He wasn't at North Dakota Division II or 1AA or whatever the hell they call it now, right? You know what I mean? Like he played at the highest level of football, and he's had to overcome some obstacles in his life and some adversity in his life.
Pete Thompson Tuesday with Thompson. Now, I would imagine, your boy Billy Schweim from the locker room on Sunday, he was tweeting away early in the game. The defense is terrible. They didn't play preseason games. That shows. I mean, I think the fact that they didn't play the preseason, people were talking about this, was you had no film on what Sirianni was going to do. Both teams, Atlanta and Philadelphia, played no preseason, barely at all. Kyle Pitts took one snap in the preseason. One.
Right.
So neither team utilized the preseason at all. And a lot of people were saying.
Which is also why, Kenny Gainwell, I think about, right? Who expected him to be, when Jordan Howard did make the 53-man roster, some of us were scratching our heads wait, what? But, they have a plan, and they at any point in the preseason, do you think they ever revealed that Kenneth Gainwell was going to be a big part of the day one opening offense?
Well,
No,
you didn't see anything in the preseason. They showed nothing in the preseason. And again, I think you're just going to see more and more teams just get away from those preseason games altogether because nobody had any read on what the Eagles were going to do. No, you just talked about Gainwell. You had no idea that he was a part of their game plan. You would have said, okay, it's going to be Howard or it's going to be Boston Scott. Nope, it was Gainwell, Scott, and Howard wasn't even activated.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable, right? But, that's what excites me, too. Obviously, once the teams start to get film on you and they start to notice some tendencies and stuff, but at least for week 1, week 2, maybe even week 3 against Dallas, you get the idea that, Sirianni is going to come up with some good calls and some good schemes.
Hey, I'm just glad, Peter. I'm just glad the game was fun. It was entertaining. There was I wanted to see stuff. Like last year, it was painful. Even games they won was painful. I'm interested. I'm interested in Devonta Smith. I'm interested in Jalen Reagor. I'm interested in Quez Watkins. I'm interested in the tight ends. I love watching the offensive line. They just absolutely dominate. Their offense has a lot of intrigue and fun behind it.
Didn't that look like a young Jason Kelsey, too, on a couple of those plays where he pancaked the first guy, then he got off of him and said, all right, who's the next guy I can knock on his ass?
Yeah.
I mean, that was awesome to see.
It really was. Hey, by the way, text message, is Pete going to order a meatloaf while he's on the air, or is he pushing for the Penrose Diner to be a sponsor?
That's so funny. I should have just thrown out, yes, I'll take hotcakes, no sausage, just have a throwback to my other food ordering thing. I moved away from the table, so hopefully you're not hearing the music as much. And what are you going to do? The waitress comes up and asks you what you want to drink. I got to order.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I guess the listener must have caught that.
Good ears.
Yeah, by the way, Pete Thompson, if you go to our website right now, 973ESPN.com, Chuck Fletcher spoke today. They announced the start of rookie camp, the start of training camp. They announced that fans are going to return, and the Flyers are looking for a new goal scoring song.
Now, I just wrote about that in my short local column, and I'm so excited that they're finally getting rid of that stupid song that they had. I never feel the shake. That did not make me feel anything but apathy. Right?
What was it?
That didn't do anything for me.
What was the song?
Feel the Shake. Feeling the Shake or Feel the Shake was what it was called.
Yeah.
So there's some people that actually, this is what I saw on social media. Some people, and as much as I love this channel and station, they want them to play the Action News theme after they score a goal.
Oh,
That's
come
stupid.
on.
That's stupid. But there's other people out there that are saying, go back to the Cup year, in 97, or even, I don't think they were playing this in 2010, that that one.
Yeah, I do remember that one. I didn't like that one.
Right. So they want him to go back to that one.
That was, I think Danny Briere was the guy who went with that one.
Yep. When they came back in Boston and all that. Yeah. But look, whatever they go with, at least the fans are going to be involved.
Yeah. Well,
so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So I guess the fans can enter what songs they want. So if you have a song, because we can send an entry in. So I want to see if the listeners, what should be the Flyers' new goal song?
You're welcome.
609.
Yeah, send it in. I'm going to submit.
609-403-0973. Message us through the free mobile app. Let us know what should be the Flyers' new goal song. Now, I have two songs that I have in my head that I'm going to throw out there in about 20 minutes from now, okay?
Okay. Please tweet about them, too, so when I'm at the Phillies game, I could check.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get the goal songs. When the people text them in, we'll take the best 4 entries, and then we'll put them on Twitter, and then the votes will come in, and then the winning vote we will send to the Flyers.
Ooh, I like that. And
Okay.
we have clout. Don't they know who we are? We're big time.
They do know who we are. You're Pete Thompson without a sponsor.
That's correct. And I'm ordering food as we speak.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you getting there at the Penrose?
I've barely had a chance to look at the menu, but the guy that I'm with is all about the chicken croquettes, so he might go chicken croquettes.
Now, when you go to dinner with somebody and they recommend something, do you automatically go that route? Like my buddy swears there's a restaurant. He says, I got to get the pork chop. I never would order a pork chop at a restaurant ever.
Well, is it a stuffed pork chop or is it just a regular little puny one?
Just a pork chop, like whatever. I don't know. He's like, oh, you got to get the pork chop. I'm like, at no point when I'm going out to dinner am I ordering a pork chop.
I tend not to go with the recommendation. Too. A lot of times, too, people will ask me to get seafood. You know how I feel on that.
Yeah, BT's got like 4 things in the repertoire.
Meat, cheese, bread.
Burgers and fries.
Burgers, fries, meat, cheese, bread.
Now,
carbs.
when you go to Wawa, Pete Thompson, are you ordering burger and fry?
Oh, God, no. I haven't had a burger from Wawa, nor will I. You don't go to Wawa to get a burger. You go to Wawa to get coffee and a donut. That's what my dad does every day.
Do you back into your parking spot at Wawa?
He does have a backup camera, but I don't think he's backing into the spot.
No, who are you
but
talking
he even has the app, so it's like Free Coffee Wednesdays. He's very excited about the word free.
Yeah.
If there's free in there, he's all about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if it's free, it's for me, he says, Pete Thompson.
It's free. And his name is Jimmy, so he'll take all you're going to give me.
Right. His name's Jimmy. He'll take anything you give me. Did you watch the ManningCast last night?
I did not, and another colleague told me about it at school today, and now I'm pissed off I didn't watch it. And I heard you and Josh talking about it, and Josh is wrong. Peyton Manning, and you were right. They want to do it on their terms, and their terms are, I don't want to leave my house, I don't want to go anywhere. Put a mic on me, and I'll do it. And so that's why they're doing it the way they are. And I'm going to watch the next one because I think it's got to be must see.
It was pretty good. Now, I did not see Charles Barkley. I didn't see Kelsey, and I didn't see Ray Lewis. I saw Russell Wilson. I thought Russell Wilson, like having 2 quarterbacks, or really, I say 2 because Eli I don't really think is anything special, but having those 2 quarterbacks talk about what they're seeing and watching was really cool. Like,
yeah, that's the part I'm jealous that I missed.
And
like
you have a player who's currently playing in Russell Wilson, talking about another player, that was pretty cool. So,
yeah.
All right, Pete Thompson, you can go eat now.
I'll watch next week. All right, thanks. Chicken croquettes, here they come. All right, I'll talk to you on Friday.
All right, Tuesday with Thompson. He's back on Friday. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash coming up. Brought to you by Dell. For your small business needs, call a Dell Technologies advisor today. Rob Motti from the Associated Press. He spoke to Jonathan Gannon and the assembled media today. Got a chance to talk to all the coordinators. We'll hit the highlights coming up on the other side here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You can download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play and message us right through the free mobile app. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Follow me there. Go to our website right now, 973ESPN.com. Why is Bow Wow displeased with Eagles fans? Find out. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com. All right, Eagles 32, Falcons 6. We'll move ahead to San Francisco, who have a lot of injury issues starting tomorrow. But first, Rob Motti, his appearance brought to you by Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. He joins us for our last look at the big win. What stood out in the game? I know Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, they spoke today, and the Eagles are 1-0, but they did it in very impressive fashion, Rob. It wasn't an ugly win. They really steamrolled was the word Baldy used with us last week, and they did exactly what he said. They steamrolled the Falcons. So is this a sign of things to come, or are the Falcons that bad?
Well, I think it's a combination of the Falcons not being that good of a football team. And the Eagles, Mike, they dominated, man. They dominated right from the start. A couple early series that they had to get the defense going, and they held them. They held them to field goals. But it was just an impressive victory. When you told me that last week about Baldy saying they're going to steamroll them, I was like, man, are you kidding me? They're steamrolling. I thought the offense would score some points. I had them at 23. They scored 32. I didn't think the defense was going to come out and be that convincing. And it was just a sound victory up and down across the board. Love the way Jalen Hurts played. How could you not? Poise, command, had a lot. He was able to just create plays when he needed to and then take what the defense was giving him. And I know some people were talking about, well, he didn't take too many shots down the field. Okay, he didn't have to when he completed that many passes and they were having so much success. And if the defense took that away, he found other things to do. The running game was strong and solid. And what can you say, Mike, about the offensive line, man? What a dominant performance by that offensive line. And every time I've talked to you or I've talked about this team, I've emphasized the importance and the need of the offensive line. If they come back healthy, if they're able to play up front the way we know they're capable of, if Jordan Mailata develops and Isaac Seumalo had a great game, they're going to be the difference between 2 or 3 wins. And they certainly proved it against the Falcons. And despite 7 penalties by the offensive line. So there's still things they can clean up and fix, and they're going to get better.
That's the point I was making as well, was the ugliest part of the game, Rob, was the penalties, but they came from veteran guys. If it's young guys and they're making rookie mistakes, that's one thing. These are veteran guys that you would think are going to clean that up. I mean, Seumalo went off sides, 3 times? Lane Johnson had a rough day. He's not a guy. So that, to me is not going to be an issue. But you're right. That offensive line really dominated. Now, Atlanta, not a very big team up front. They dominate up there. They're going to get tested this week, especially Jordan Mailata. I want to ask you about that contract. Some people are like, wait a second, they gave this guy a contract. He played 10 games. So what's your take on the contract? They went out and identified a young player and gave him a big deal.
And they wanted to get ahead of it, Mike. They wanted to make sure that they signed him now at a more team-friendly contract than if he were to go out and have a Pro Bowl season, or even if he had an all-pro season, then forget it. He's going to be skyrocketing his salary through the roof. So I understand what they did and why they did it. I've been more of a let's prove it first. Prove it over an extended period of time before you give somebody a contract. We can all point to giving Carson Wentz a contract coming off a season where he had the knee injury, then the back injury, and then they give him the contract, and look how that ended up playing out for them. So I thought maybe they'd be reluctant. Of course, he didn't get that kind of money or those kind of guarantees, but I don't think Jordan Mailata is going to get complacent because he got the money. I don't think Jordan Mailata is going to stop trying to prove what he can be in the NFL and continue to try and get better and grow and develop and all of that stuff. So they did it. They put their faith in Jordan Mailata, and he certainly went out there against the Falcons, and he's going to be tested on a weekly basis, though. When you're playing that left tackle position, you're going to constantly be tested.
Well, he's going to get tested with Bosa this week, obviously. This is going to be a big upgrade from what he did because he dominated. That line dominated, as you talked about. But because, Rob, the line dominated, it allowed these young skill position players to kind of show what they can do. So what did you like about the way Nick Sirianni accentuated the positives of his skill players?
Man, he did exactly what we were hoping he would do, and that's cater an offense to the strengths of your players, get guys involved. I remember talking to you last week saying, hey, I'd like to see these young receivers get involved early with some short passes. Well, Quez Watkins of all the guys gets the first 3 plays. He don't catch anything again the rest of the game, got him involved, got Jalen Hurts into the flow early. A lot of short passes, a lot of mid-range passes, and then the touchdown pass to Devontae Smith was beautifully executed, beautifully drawn up. Zach Ertz does his job there, a little bit of a rub, and Devontae is one-on-one. Perfect throw, perfect catch. I love the way Sirianni used his players, his pieces. They're able to, both Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon were rotating guys in, getting a lot of players out there. There's a lot of versatility on this team. There's some depth that we're seeing on this team. But I can't get so carried away, Mike. It's the Atlanta Falcons. The San Francisco 49ers are a much better football team. We need to see it more on a consistent basis. I don't want to say that this was listen, anytime you beat anybody 32-6, that's a great thing. You don't want to go out there and beat a bad team 16-13. They pounded them. They beat a bad team. We didn't expect that to happen. That was terrific. That was great. But each week is going to be a challenge. Each week is going to be a test. And as people see what this team looks like now on film, because you didn't see them in the preseason, now there's some film out there on the Eagles. There's some film out there on Nick Sirianni's offense, on what he wants to do, on what they look like. I would anticipate defenses are going to be better prepared for them, and it's going to be a tougher challenge. And I just remember going back to 2016. Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson began with a 3-0 start, and they routed the Pittsburgh Steelers 34-3, I believe it was, in the third win before going on an early bye, which kind of killed their momentum. And that season ended up 7-9. So I've learned not to get carried away with any one victory.
Yep, I feel that there, and I do remember that they got off to that great start, and then there was a part there where you were questioning whether Peterson knew what he was doing. I think it was that Lions game they lost where who was it, Ryan Matthews or somebody fumbled the ball late in the game. But this team just felt a little different because of the fact that the quarterback didn't turn the ball over. I mean, we asked so many times last year if the quarterback just played mediocre, what the difference of that season would be. And Hurts, I don't think he played all pro. He was just good, not great. He didn't panic. That was what I saw. A guy who just didn't panic. Now, how much of that is the offensive line was fantastic. Carson didn't have that last year. But I thought the quarterback really rubbed off on the entire offense. That was something that I really took from the game is he was cool, calm. What did Sirianni say after the game, Rob? He was in control. He ran the offense the way we wanted him to. And that, you saw Carson on Sunday. I hate to bring him into this, but he got sacked 3 times. He's holding on to the ball. And you wonder, man, I mean, how much of the quarterback's temperament was an issue?
Yeah, and well, his offensive line in Indy wasn't helping him. It was reminiscent of him playing behind the Eagles last year. I was like, nothing changed. You go over there, and the offensive line's not helping you out. You know what Jalen looked like? He looked like Carson in 2017 a little bit. He looked like Carson in 2016, the first 3-0 starts. So that's what you need. And you need a quarterback who's calm, cool, collected. You need a quarterback who is, and I love that he's able to extend plays. The one touchdown pass to Goddard was tremendous as he's rolling out. He makes that throw. It was phenomenal. It was kind of like Carson and Miles Sanders in D.C. 2 years, 2019, that last 4-game stretch, that one where he threw it over a couple guys. But Jalen, this is what we've talked about since he's been here is he's got the leadership ability. He's got the poise. He's got all the intangibles. Can he translate that out onto the football field and make his plays, make the passes? And I love the fact that he completed 77% of his passes because one of the biggest question marks coming in was, well, he was under 60%. Nobody's under 60%. Not in this NFL anymore. Back in the Joe Montana era, you were 60%. you were great. Now everybody's in borderline 70, 72, 73. Everybody's over 60 with the short passes and everything else. And you can't touch quarterbacks, and the receivers have so much freedom and all that. So it was great to see him at 77%. And I think he can certainly build off this. And it's awesome to be able to come out there, be convincing, be dominant, and have something like that to fall back on all throughout the week as you get ready for a tough opponent in the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, now with that, you asked Nick Sirianni after the game, after a convincing win, you got a lot of young guys. We all saw the video of them jumping up and down, going crazy in that locker room as if they won the last game of the year, not the first game of the year. How do they bring that same energy and be prepared and realize that, hey, you got to put the pads on again next week and play a different opponent?
Yeah, and I wanted to know how he feels about coming off a win like that and what you have to do, one, to maintain that energy, make sure they're prepared and no letdown. You can't afford a letdown because, listen, when you have 53 guys on a team and an X amount of guys in a locker room with the practice squad, some guys, the tendency is going to be like, hey, look what I did last week. They're going to feel the confidence level is going to rise. And you want to make sure that these guys don't get in any way, shape, or form complacent or fall back on it. And I thought he gave a great answer. And he said, hey, if I'm coming out here on Wednesday thinking about what I did last Sunday, I'm going to get my butt kicked this upcoming Sunday. It can't happen. And he's got to impress that upon the players, and he's got to make sure that they know, hey, whatever you did, that's in the past. That was last week. New opponent, new team. Bring the same energy, bring the same preparation, but don't feel like you've accomplished anything just yet. And he brought it back to, hey, in all honesty, he said, we've only won one game. We got to go out there and do it again.
All right, Nick, Nick Sirianni, who obviously is getting very high reviews. What about Jonathan Gannon's side of things? You know, I laugh because last year Jim Schwartz, he don't blitz enough. They blitzed the third least amount of times in all of football this weekend. 10% of plays were blitzes. So it wasn't that they weren't blitzing or blitzes wasn't the issue. What did Gannon do? Because early in the game, people were panicking. Oh, my God, they're not tackling it. And then what?
Yeah, early in the game, I saw some tweets comparing him to Jim Schwartz. I was like, "Hey, we played 2 series. Let's calm down, right? Let's relax. It's only been 2 series." I love the way he brought some pressure, he brought some heat without having to rely on blitzes. They got such a dominant defensive line up there. Their defensive line was able to control the line of scrimmage. They were able to make Matt Ryan so uncomfortable in the pocket. And I thought Matt Ryan looked more like the second-year pro, and Jalen Hurts looked like the veteran. And that's got a lot to do with Gannon's scheme and those guys up front. And the defensive lineman, Javon Hargrave had a terrific game, rotating guys in. I love that Gannon does it too as well, rotates guys in, keeps the legs fresh, because here's what happens, Mike. You get to the fourth quarter, and you got fresh legs on the defensive side because guys are getting rotated in. And the offensive linemen, man, they're out there every play. Every play that they're not banged up, dinged up, they're not hurt, they're out there. So that wears on you. That takes a toll on you, and you're retreating. You're trying to pass protect, and you have these fresh legs coming at you. And that's a great thing. I thought they did some nice things. Eric Wilson with the team high, I believe he had 9 sacks. He did some nice things, and he'll have a tough test. All that linebacker core have a really tough test this week with George Kittle and the 49ers. And the secondary, they lose Marcus Epps, and obviously we know Rodney McLeod's not back yet. He'll probably be back maybe later September, hopefully, or no later than early October. We'll see on that. And they're going to need him back there because these next 3 opponents are not, they're playing some teams that can score some points. So this defense is going to be challenged.
We will talk more about Eagles-Niners when Rob is back on Thursday's edition of the show. Biggest takeaway from the win was what?
Man, Jalen Hurts, to me, passed every test. And when I look at that, I look at it and say, I don't know yet if Jalen Hurts is the answer. I was willing to bet on him in the preseason. I was willing to bet on him coming into this season, and he certainly didn't let me down week 1. He went out there and he showed that he can play, that he's a winner. He's got the temperament. He's got the mentality. He's got the talent, and he can put things together. Nick Sirianni's not going to be out-coached. He's going to make some adjustments. He's going to cater he said it. He walked his talk, man. He kept saying it and saying it. Hey, I cater my offense to the strengths of my players. Well, we saw that. So I look at those 2 things because, hey, at the end of the day, Mike, we always analyze the quarterback and the head coach first. That's where we always sit back and before we look at the O-line or the D-line or the secondary or the linebacker. It's always the easiest thing to do is look at the coach, look at the quarterback. And for me, they aced this test on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons.
Real quick, they reworked Fletcher Cox's contract today. What is the reasoning behind that?
Well, it's good to have some flexibility. I believe it's $11 million in salary cap space that opened up, and I think they'll look at some of the guys that they can re-up because Howie loves to do that in season, and that's something that they can do. I don't think it's opening up money, Mike, to bring in anybody at this
All right.
point. It's going to be hard to bring in guys at this point. And of course, especially with the rules and the protocols and everything else, you don't bring a guy in and he's available to you right away. But I think it's more likely that they'll use that money to re-up one of their guys before sometime, maybe in October, November.
By the way, you mentioned Howie. Mailata, Hurts, Smith, Rieger, Gainwell, Goddard, Watkins, Sanders. They're all drafted by Howie Roseman.
Give him credit, man. You got to give the guy credit where it's due. I always thought that Howie was given too much criticism for some of the draft picks, and while some of them have been abysmal, we know that. Sometimes you got to let guys play out a few years, and I was never ready to give up on Jalen Rieger, and I was really excited to see Jalen Rieger score that touchdown and be involved, because I thought this was a kid last year who came into a tough situation, and then having to see Justin Jefferson continue to pile up numbers for the Minnesota Vikings. It's not about 1 year. It's not about 2 years. It's about 5 years. And Justin Jefferson may very well be the better player for the duration of his career. But I think Jalen Rieger still got some talent, and it was nice to see a coaching staff bring that out of him, man. And that's what Howie will point to. Hey, I got you the guys. Let's develop them. And
he made the comment of, hey, we're not ready to write off last year's draft class. We're excited about this new coaching staff getting their hands on these guys, and that was definitely something that stood out. Rob, Faith on the Field Saturday at 9:00. Who we talking to?
We're going to go back-to-back Eagles players this week. We're going to have Rodney McLeod. So we're going to have Rodney on this week. It's a long conversation. He talks a little bit about Nick. He talks a little bit about Jalen. Talks about coming back off that ACL injury, which he had suffered before. So he knows exactly what it takes to rehab. Of course, when he spoke to the media a couple of weeks ago, Mike, the first thing he sat down, he said, God is good. And I always want to talk to an athlete who is coming off some adversity and dealing with things like that and is able to keep things in perspective. So, of course, we certainly talk about his faith. But he had glowing praise for Sirianni, glowing praise for Jalen Hurts. We talked last week ahead of week 1, and they went out there and certainly made Rodney look good.
Saturday at 9, Sunday 6:30. Faith on the Field. Rob Maaddi hosts, and, of course, he'll be back on Thursday right here with a look at Eagles and the Niners. All right, pal. We'll see.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, bud.
Rob Maaddi here on the Sports Bash, and he is brought to you by Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. Rob Maaddi's appearance each Tuesday and Thursday is brought to you by our friends over at Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. We will wrap up the show coming up tonight on game night. It's Bo Wolf, Eagles writer for PhiladelphiaEagles.com. He'll join Josh at 6:20. On tonight's edition of Game Night here on the Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store, Google Play. It's free on your phone. And you can take the Sports Bash show on the go. Get ready to wrap up tonight's show. Before we go, a couple things that we want to let you know. See how that all rhymed. Bo Wolf, by the way, from The Athletic. He used to be at PhiladelphiaEagles.com. He's now over at The Athletic covering the Eagles. He'll be on with Josh tonight at 6:20. Tomorrow on the show, Mike McGarry's here. Jason Fitz is here. Jeff Mosher, football at 4. Find 5, ugly 5. My 5 best and 5 worst teams in the NFL after 1 week of the season. On Thursday's show, don't forget we are live at Chickies and Pete's in Atlantic City. You can come on out and see the show live. Also on Thursday's show, former Eagles coach from their Super Bowl season, one of their assistant coaches, Ryan Paganetti, will be on the show. Ryan has been doing a tremendous job. If those of you who follow him on Twitter, he's been getting a lot of attention here recently for basically catching little trends and things that teams are doing, like hand signals and what these words mean when you hear a quarterback say something. He has basically been breaking down stuff like that on Twitter, and it is pretty cool to see some of the things he said about the opening night game. But he was also on the Eagles staff, so we'll get a good insight from him on what he thought about the Eagles. Meanwhile, what he did was a manager of analytics. He was the game manager and the analytics consultant for the Eagles Super Bowl team. And I want to ask him what he thinks is sustainable by Philadelphia. What is something that he thinks that he saw in that first game is sustainable, and what is something that is just a 1 week aberration because they're playing the Atlanta Falcons? So stick around for that. That'll be on Thursday's show at 4:40. New for this season, on Thursday, our NFL first look at the schedule, Todd Rank will join me. Todd likes to place a wager or two. He will join me for the NFL first look. So we will get Todd's reaction to the schedule. We will both try to do the lines as our old co-host Todd Rank will be back on Thursdays at 5 o'clock. Friday show, Sal Powell, Casey Joyner, happy hour Friday with the PT. Starts moving fast, man. Week 2 is here. Tomorrow, Wednesday. Thursday, it is Washington football team and the Giants right here on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash, that's it for me. Josh has game night coming up next. Thank you for all the people who texted in with the pet peeves. I will do the Flyers goal song tomorrow, okay? Flyers goal song tomorrow. I ran out of time to kind of get into that today. It was something I wanted to do today, but a lot of the people were texting me with all the pet peeves today. All right, that's it. Have a great night, everybody. Josh has game night coming up next.